Survivor's ready. Go!
Hello everybody and welcome once again to a galaxy far, far away in Survivor Oz. Yes, that is right. If you are listening to this episode and expecting something that perhaps is to talk about Survivor, then you might want to listen to another episode, because this is a very special episode of Survivor Oz where for the very first time we are here to talk about something that isn't a reality TV show. Yes, we are jumping on the fan wagon of other podcasts and other things that are talking about the biggest movie release of 2015, the biggest movie release of the decade, the biggest movie release of the millennium, except for the other two Star Wars movies that came out earlier in this millennium. That is the Star Wars 7th film in the series, The Force Awakens, and we just thought we would do an episode. We being myself, Ben, and that guy, Noah Groves. Hello, Noah.
How you going?
Good. How are you?
Bit tired.
Yeah?
Seeing as we've slept like 4 hours or so in the space of seeing Star Wars. Like, what? It's probably been 20 hours since we've seen it.
Pretty much. We should just put this into context. It's a Thursday night on the day of the Survivor Cambodia finale. Survivor reference for those wondering at home. And we've recorded our Oztopsy, which for those who have no idea, if maybe you're listening to this just purely on the basis of Star Wars and you don't know what...
Star Wars fans.
Hello, Star Wars fans. That basically we record our recap episode at a very earlier time. So instead of doing one tonight, and Noah's here at my house and can't get rid of him, he just wants to stay around, it's thought we'd record an episode, and we actually got home from our midnight, 12:30 screening of Star Wars last night, got home at about 3:30 and stayed up for about an hour and a half talking about what we liked and didn't like about the film. So we thought, well, why don't we translate that into an episode?
We should have just clicked record at that, but if we did, it would have been a lot of, well, what was this and what was that? I guess we do have a fair few negative things to say about this film, and that's not it. It's to say that we don't like it, because we do like it, but I feel like with anything there's always more negative things to talk about than the positives. The positives is it was cool, but so if we're being uber negative, it's not to say that this is a horrible film, but do we kind of want to set up the event that we went to?
Oh, yeah, we shall. Just before we do, though, I will quickly say, if people are listening to this from Survivor perspective and like, oh, well, this is a fun episode, I'm seeing The Force Awakens, why not? I'll listen to this one as well. But what do they know about talking about movies? They've only talked about reality TV. Well, 007 is a spin-off. We have conducted this year for about the last 6 or so months, myself, Noah and Colin. We've all managed to start 007 about James Bond, so we've obviously done a lot of talk about the latest movie, Spectre, and also we've done movie recaps and everything like that. So one thing I will say is that for Colin, for Cable, and for all our other Star Wars fans who work for the show, who are probably very angry at us right now that we're actually doing this episode without them, again, we are doing this 20 hours or so after we've seen the film. Colin doesn't get to see this film for about another 24 hours. Cable's literally in the cinema right now watching this as we are recording this.
We're recording while you're in the cinema.
Yes, exactly. And we were just impatient.
Not even out in America. It's just...
Yeah, exactly. Well, at the time of course, it is not in America.
And we didn't plan this episode.
No. We literally said about 2 hours ago, oh, should we? Oh, okay.
Yeah. But we should note we have discussed it a fair bit.
Yes.
So this won't be all El Natural, but... in saying that, not so much today, because there was other things to attend to. So,
and I will just quickly say, and this is probably really obvious, and you've seen this in our post on our website, you'll see this in the description on iTunes, and we have to warn this to you right now. This will contain spoilers.
Spoilers.
If you have not seen The Force Awakens and you are thinking to yourself, oh, well, I'm going to see it tomorrow, but
of a review.
Let's hear what Ben and Noah think about it from Survivor Oz. Spoilers.
If this just played on your iTunes by accident.
Yes.
Spoilers.
We are warning you right now. We're going to set it up in a minute, and as Noah said, we'll talk about the event we went to and things like that. We're not going to straight away go, oh my God, this happens. Yeah. But we are just warning you right now.
Let's give them a 5-second countdown. And then from then, if they're not tuned out, it's their fault.
Yes. So 5, first warning.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Happy New Year! Oh, you just actually gave away a spoiler. What was that? No, I didn't quite hear it.
I said Jar Jar's back.
Yes.
We'll get into that. But if you're listening by now, I think we gave you a fair warning.
Yes, and seriously, if you're up to this point of the episode and you still haven't gotten the gist that this is a spoiler episode, then Han Solo dies. So,
And if you're listening to this and because you don't care about spoilers, maybe watch the film first anyway, just because we're probably not going to give it justice that the actual film deserves, like if just us two dweebs talking about it.
And if you don't know who Han Solo is, then get the fuck off this episode.
What's Star Wars? I should listen and see.
Han Solo, isn't that what you drink when you've got a really thirst crush to break? I don't know what they're...
Thirst quencher.
That's it. That's what I'm looking for. But yeah, so we went along, for those who don't know where we live, Noah's address is 17 Snug Road Snug. We live in Hobart, Tasmania, Australia, and cinema in our city had midnight screening.
Very rare.
Very rare, yes. And they had at least, 6 sessions? 7, 8 sessions?
I'm trying to think. If you count all of last night, because they had 3 a.m. sessions.
Mm-hmm. 12, 12:15, 12:30. I think they even added a 12:45 from memory.
Yeah, and then they had the gold class, like the exclusive kind of ones. So
3D, 2D.
yeah, probably around 8.
8 or so
last
screenings.
night. And then again back at 9 a.m. this morning.
Exactly, and they're running right up again, I think, to midnight tonight as well, from memory. So, very rare, as Noah said, that they do this. And it very well attended. Several of the midnight screenings were sold out in advance. We got there probably about 11 o'clock. There was a massive queue outside the cinema, but that was just really for the midnight ones. And very well organised, I have to say. They had certain areas designated for whatever screening you were seeing. And
the stormtroopers organising the line.
They did.
Move along.
And they had, as you entered the cinema for the main one, they had a sort of an honour guard of lightsabers letting people in, which is cool.
There.
Actually, Harrison Ford.
I think I saw Boba Fett.
Yes, Jar Jar was properly kicked out and had to go across the road to the men's gallery. Misa saw our boobies. But yeah, no, it was very well put on and very well organised. I nearly missed out on getting into the cinema because we were lined up and we're like, let's go get our popcorn. So Noah was like, here's some money, go and get it. He's like my dad, apparently.
We didn't want to lose the spot.
So lined up and...
We wanted good seats.
Yeah, well, exactly. We don't want to sit at the front. We're in Cinema 3. So we waited, and then just kind of as I got towards the front of the line, what do I see? The people that just happened to be in the front of the line about to walk into the cinema, and I'm like, shit, give me my popcorn. On the salted caramel chop top.
Including myself, having to be forced into the cinema without you.
And you kind of stood there inconspicuously behind the thing, and then you came up to me like, sneak under the rope, and then there was like this feminazi woman there like, let me see your ticket. And it's like, you don't need to see my ticket.
Jedi mind.
My ticket is in order.
These are not the tickets you're looking for.
What had you done if I had brought the Spectre ticket along by mistake? I brought the wrong ticket!
We'll pass the gate anyway.
And they said, no, you have to go see Spectre. Sorry. Special screening for Ben and Noah, Spectre. But, so I have... For those... nobody listening to this is in Hobart. They have no idea what we're talking about. But it's basically, growing up, there was one cinema in our city, and this was the main one in Hobart City. And I think it had about 8 cinemas, but Cinema 1 and Cinema 2 are the big ones. Like, there's tiered seating, it's a big screen, and they used to advertise them with digital sound. And nowadays, like, Cinema 1 and Cinema 2, I think every time I've been to Hobart, that's the only cinemas I get to see in. But Cinema 3 on and below are shit. They're small. My TV screen is bigger than Cinema 3.
No one goes.
No one goes to Cinema 3, and that's just a pod racer in the background if you're wondering what these sound effects are. But yeah, so we kind of were sort of middle-ish area, were we not? Or where would you describe us as being?
We were past the halfway point towards the back, but we weren't at the back, which we were probably aiming for roughly.
Well, yeah, I said to you, I'm not sitting down the front.
Yeah.
But
it's not tiered, so it really didn't matter in the end.
I had to lean up with a crook neck, basically. And
it was still worth it. We had a good audience.
Yes.
They were cheering, and
they were
very quiet during one scene.
Yes, which we will get to.
Yeah.
But it's also interesting because it was meant to start at 12:30. Started at probably about 12:40, to which they still had to show trailers. Yeah. And what were all the trailers on? Just happened to be Marvel movies.
Marvel.
Oh, and a DC movie. Batman, Superman, which looks good.
Well, I actually heard today now then the 1201 did not have advertising.
That went straight into it.
Which pissed me off because we were already in Cinema 3. Are we going to be punished for not buying tickets fast enough?
And we were. Now, we're not going to go through this sort of scene by scene. It kind of sounds like we are. What was the way I'm about to start with.
Then the screen opened.
But the
movie.
The thing, of course, Noah and I rewatched all the films in the lead up, and of course, any Star Wars fans know it starts off with the 20th Century Fox, and then it kind of goes into the green Lucasfilm logo, and then it kind of goes black, and then you see a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, silence, silence, silence. Did it seem rushed? Did it seem rushed to you at the beginning, or maybe was that just the anticipation of waiting it?
Yeah, I think we were just missing we were missing our normal opening. So
20th Century Fox.
Yeah, 20th Century. So it just jumped into it, but there was still cheers there.
There was cheers.
It was kind of like, oh, holy shit, this is actually happening.
You kept turning to me saying, Ben, we're about to see a new Star Wars movie. But I guess, impressions of the movie, and then we can talk about bits and bobs.
Undying.
Yes, undying. By his own son. We should have really given a second warning there for a spoiler. Too late. But yeah, what did you think? What did you take on it?
I thought it was good.
And that's the episode. Thanks for tuning in to Survivor Oz, a special episode.
I didn't think it was great. I thought it was good. Maybe the expectation was a bit high coming into it, because not only did it kind of had this extra expectation of, well, it doesn't matter about sucking, it just has to be better than the prequels, which it probably was, but there was just so much hype into this being good, no one took a backseat and thought, well, what if they don't do everything perfect? And I honestly don't believe they did everything perfect. It was a fun film. My eyes never left the screen. I was captivated for the whole 2 hours and 10 minutes. It went by so fast. Great action, some really fun new characters, some really fun old characters. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it... A funny anecdote is we had one guy in our cinema who said, oh, that was better than I thought after it ended. So he must have went in with low expectations. But it didn't really feel much like a Star Wars film in a way. And I've been seeing reviews, not too many, but some saying, oh, this is a return to the old style and the old charm. And I don't know, I felt like the prequels almost felt more like a Star Wars film than this one did. And a lot of the timeline and what they chose to do 30 years after, like we've had 20 years before, and now we're getting to explore 30 years after. And that's not what I pictured all my childhood of what happens after Return of the Jedi. And of course they don't have to cater the film to me. But,
well, they should.
Yeah. We'll get to our joke of renaming Episode 6 Return of a Jedi. But yeah, I enjoyed the film. I honestly did. I can't wait to see it again. But I did have a lot of issues with it, if I'm not going to lie. Yeah.
I'm very much on a similar page. And, I mean, I'd always kind of imagined what happened after Return of the Jedi. I mean, I've never read sort of the now non-canon books and everything. I'd sort of loosely read synopsis of them and sort of what had happened. But I'd always just wondered, and, kind of rewatching Jedi this week, and like, oh, wow, I'm actually going to finally get to see this. This is going to be awesome. And, it was... There were just so many things about it that you just kind of think and talk about it that you're like, wow, okay, this, there's an issue with this and this and this. Yeah. And I can see to an extent what people say when it's maybe an old style feel to it. Like, there were definitely elements of that I would agree with. But I definitely agree with what Noah said too, that I feel the prequels felt more so. And can we just warn people, not only are there spoilers in this episode, there might be defensive parts of the prequels.
Just a teeny little.
Just we were talking about this. We're like, fuck, we're defending the prequels.
Yeah.
So just be warned if I don't know what's worse, but
not a whole lot, but a teeny little bit.
I mean, there were so many good things about this film. Yeah. There were bad things about this film, and I mean, one key thing that definitely was a big thing straight away we left is it was maybe too humorous. Like,
Yeah, which is funny.
which
for
is
Star Wars.
well, it's just strange to kind of say that, and like maybe that's what people are talking about, the old school charm, because you know they had this charm about it that had humour, but like Star Wars humour isn't like James Bond humour. Like
It almost felt too forced.
yeah, well, pardon the pun, but like I mean, there were definitely clear cut funny moments that really worked, but there were definitely bits in it that I was like, well, that's funny, but
Yeah.
is it meant to be in a film like this?
Mainly, one big notable is the character of Finn, or Luke as we've been calling him. You can figure that out for yourself, but yeah, his character seemed very forced into like, oh yes, I'm in the Resistance, like trying to go along with it. What planet? Some of it was funny, but a lot of it felt forced. While maybe the humour of the originals kind of just flowed better. No pun. Just felt more natural. While
Well, a lot of it came down to like the connections of the characters and kind of, you know, just the actors and things like that. Like, I mean, the swagger and the charm of Han Solo, and just kind of where all that humour and all that sort of came from, and just
he was great.
little bit things like that. Like, yeah, it's, you know, I mean, it might, obviously I think our opinions are going to be completely different on this on a second viewing. I mean, it was like that with Spectre on talking about that with James Bond, but yeah, I mean, again, we're not here to just completely rip shit into this film. It might seem like that at parts, that we're just completely, oh, this bit, this bit, this bit, this bit.
Yeah.
But
The problem with analysis always seems like people hate things because it's much easier to talk about what didn't work than what did work.
yeah, and we've found that in 007, that even on a film we all come into that we universally love, all three of us at hosting it, we're still nitpicking it and saying that there are shit things about it.
I love to nitpick. Nitpick is my favourite
Yes.
thing to
That's
pick.
why we do these.
But it doesn't mean I don't love it.
Yeah.
But I did have issues with this film.
The 30-year bit, I mean, kind of the opening text crawl and all that. I mean, obviously the main storyline being Luke Skywalker's in hiding, and you know, the plot is kind of the droid. What is it called? Bebop 80 something or other.
BB-8.
BB-8. You know, it's got a map hidden on it with the location that will lead it to Luke Skywalker, because everyone's got to find Luke Skywalker. And essentially, 30 years after the destruction of the Empire, you've got, the First Order and the Resistance.
Yeah, so the Empire and the Rebel.
Yeah, exactly. So, I think this is one of the main issues. We'll get to the Luke Skywalker bit soon, but essentially, at the end of Return of the Jedi, the Empire is defeated. We see the shots of everyone celebrating. If you've seen, obviously, the new special editions, you know, we see
Balance to the Force.
balance to the Force. Like, and at this point, the Empire is gone completely. The Rebellion control the galaxy. But somewhere over 30 years, this has gone astray, and we still have the Rebellion, the Resistance, fighting against the Empire, the First Order. So my issue with this, and you and I discussed this, and I think we're both on the same page, is like what I think should have happened is that the Rebellion, the Resistance, whatever they're called, the good guys, are in control still.
The Republic.
The Republic. They are still in control of the galaxy. And it is this First Order that are finding remnants of things to come up and now slowly become evil again. Yeah, okay, you might argue that's very similar to what happened in the prequels, but do it differently.
Yeah, do it a whole, like, big group, a whole clan, not just one Sith Lord or something.
Exactly. And I mean, basically how this worked then, and as you described it, is essentially, if you analyse this film to a certain degree, this was A New Hope completely remade in 2015, 38 years later, essentially the same film.
That was probably my biggest issue, is that this was A New Hope. And you begin to piece together, you've got the Empire, or the Resistance, and you've got the First Order. You've got a Darth Vader type character who has a mask, who talks funny, who has a red lightsaber. You've got the Millennium Falcon. You've got a Death Star. We'll get to that. And you've got them going into having to rescue a girl who's trapped on the Death Star. It was A New Hope, pretty much. And that was my biggest problem is there was no progress in this film. And
Yeah.
that's probably an overstatement. Things have changed in this galaxy, but there was no progress, and that was my biggest disappointment. Is we went from point A and we didn't get to point B. We're still on point A and a half, where yes, some things have changed and there's a few different names for things, and the First Order is nowhere near as strong as what the Empire is, even though their planet blowing up machine seems to be bigger. We'll get to that.
Planet blowing up planet.
Yeah, which yeah. But it didn't seem like any progress, and again, maybe that just come from my entire childhood of just dreaming of what could have happened after this, and there's Jedis everywhere, and Luke trained Jedis, and there's going to be a new Jedi Order, there's going to be the Republic, and yeah, there's still going to be bad guys, and there's going to be just people going about their normal business like a scavenger on a desert planet. Like, it's not like everything's completely light and good, but Jedis have returned in a different form. People are beginning to notice that they've got midi-chlorians. We're not defending that part of the prequels,
No.
don't worry. And all this stuff, but instead it's just people being enslaved by the First Order. There's blowing up planets. That's the other thing, A New Hope, they blew up a planet. It was very... It's like they were too scared to do something different.
And it's just essentially so many elements of that, as you were saying, with it. And I'm trying to think what I'm trying to say with that, but it's kind of, when you were saying about having Jedis roaming the galaxy and all that sort of stuff, and I mean, reading kind of bits and pieces of what happened in these books and kind of with Jedis, and it was a thing, I believe, that a lot of these books detailed, like there were Jedis around the galaxy now, like you would assume Luke Skywalker has done this, he's destroyed Darth Vader, he's done all this sort of stuff. Why aren't there new Jedis out there?
Return of the Jedi.
Which is, though we alluded to it, rename Return of the Jedi to Return of a Jedi, because basically with what happens in the plot in this film, Luke is still the only Jedi and he has to go into hiding. So basically, Luke at some point has opened up a training school for Jedis. He's come along, and here comes Luke, Leia and Han's son, Kylo Ren, Ben Solo.
Ben Solo, we're going to refer to him.
And at some point during this training, Kylo Ren is seduced by, what's the guy's name? The person we don't know who it is.
Supreme Leader Snoke. Are we talking about Goblin?
Not Hobbit Man, the other one that they mentioned. Isn't there somebody else they mentioned in there at some point? Yeah, we're very big fans. We remember the names of it. Noel can look that up. But so at some point when he's in training, he's sort of semi-seduced by the dark side. And basically, Luke is so ashamed that he's let this happen, Luke does a runner and goes off and hides, and Kylo Ren goes off and joins up with some weird Hobbit man who we don't know who he is.
Supreme Leader Snoke. But
Supreme
still,
Leader
we don't
Snoke.
really know anything about.
No idea who Supreme Leader Snoke is. He's something from Lord of the Rings and Gollum, and I just want to point out there that
he's played by Andy Serkis. So.
Well, this is one thing that I think the special effects in this character alone looked horrible, and I would even debate that there are 10 characters, 50 characters in the prequels that look better than this.
But the effects overall were good.
The effects overall of this film
looks like a very tight film.
Very much so. This is probably the one part of the film that just did not hold up, and it's brand new. Like, it was woeful, and we'll get to that character. But so essentially, Luke Skywalker has run a bit of a shoddy business and done a runner, and he's probably got a current affair after him ready to knock on his door like, why did you leave these people? You left people with jobs, Luke. What's going on? Well, your training school employed all these people. And so essentially, Luke Skywalker's fucked up the galaxy.
Yeah, that's what I said. There needs to be a mass extermination of the Skywalker family because between him, his father, and Ben Solo, it's just screwing up everything. But yeah, that was funny. Like, Luke trained him, our son, and now he's turned to the dark side. Instead of getting out his saber and trying to save the day, Luke just pisses off. Like, it's kind of... And yeah, I guess you can make the argument that, well, he was really ashamed because it was Han and Leia. It's his nephew, essentially. But,
Yeah.
And he probably doesn't want to kill his own nephew. Like, he's going to make...
We killed his dad. Well, sort of.
He might make Ray do it or something, but... It's just... That was funny, and they talked about, maybe he's searching for a Jedi temple, or... I think that was in relation to that, was it? We're going to get a few things iffy because we haven't rewatched it yet.
No.
But,
we haven't. We're not like these people who've, I think, seen it about like 3 times already in 12 hours.
Which there actually is people like that. But we probably will see it next week. But it's funny that they chose to... obviously, for the plot, they had to have Luke not being there. And it was a great setup for the next one. We'll get to that. That was a great cliffhanger. But it was just... Luke, he's supposed to be the great master Jedi of the whole galaxy. And he certainly looks the part. And he's done a runner because he screwed up. And it's just like... How was he seduced to the dark side? Why? And why could Luke not stay? I feel like that was very unclear.
I definitely feel, and kind of in thinking about it in hindsight, sort of nearly 24 hours after seeing it, I mean, clearly we know this is part of a new trilogy. So in 10 years' time, when we've seen these movies countless times, like we've seen both the trilogies at the moment, we're just going to look back and go, okay, that makes sense. But I guess if you kind of put this into context, like, again, another spoiler coming up here, Luke Skywalker is not seen until the very last scene in the movie, and he's probably only in it for all of 3 minutes. It's an amazing scene.
Second billing. Oh, yeah. All of the credits.
But it's an amazing scene. Gives you goosebumps. I mean, we'll get to kind of the reveals of the main characters and that in it, and sort of how we felt with it. But I probably think personally, from my personal opinion, that was the main one where I got a bit of a chill.
That was the whole thing.
That was just, and Mark Hamill. Yeah. Looks amazing.
He didn't even talk, but he was brilliant.
Didn't utter a word in this film. We saw him pull off a hood and turn his head to Ray, and that was it. But that is enough to me to be like, wow.
And we got a cool million out of that turn that he did from one day of filming, I reckon.
Yeah, well, exactly. And he looks incredible. I mean, this is, 32 years since Jedi, and he's been in his 60s now, Mark Hamill, surely, and... He looks the best out of the 3 of them. I mean,
looks like a Jedi mask.
Carrie Fisher looks amazing. We'll get to what was wrong with Carrie Fisher, and we know what Harrison Ford. But I can imagine him watching A New Hope. When you learn, you hear kind of a little bit of a backstory about Luke's father. Darth Vader killed your father. And you have no idea in 1977 that in 3-4 years he's going to be his father. So. I'm sure people back then were kind of like, well, that's a bit silly. Like, so basically Luke's random father, he's killed him. Oh, and Darth Vader floats off into space. So there's probably a lot of that if you kind of analyse A New Hope. Whereas part 2 of this, so episode 8, we're going to get this whole thing of why Luke was the shoddy man who ran off and dealt with the current affair and all that sort of stuff.
There's so much in here that we're probably going to view as criticisms that will be answered and will be cleared up. But then at the same time... I also did say to you last night that A New Hope, you're right, there would be questions if you watch that in isolation, but at the same time that was kind of a standalone.
Yeah, it was never meant to be
And then
series.
Empire and Return, you see some crossover, like that they felt like it was going to be a 2-parter almost. But then with the prequels, here we go with the prequels, is they knew the start point and the end point. So, they had a lot to make up and do along the way, but they always knew how it was going to end. While we always knew as viewers how it was going to end. This, we have no idea what's coming, and in a way that's exciting. That's an exciting prospect, but at the same time, I almost don't like having so many questions and so out of the loop in a Star Wars film.
Well, it's a very good point, actually, because you're exactly right with the prequels. It's like, every single one was exciting because we wanted to see it. But as you said, we all knew what this was building up to. We all went into Revenge of the Sith knowing this is it. This is the payoff. Anakin is becoming Darth Vader in this film. We're going to see Vader. We're going to see the birth of Luke and Leia. We're going to see it all. Whereas in this, we have no idea. Yeah. Like, it's not like they're basing this off the book. They've ripped them up and said, we're creating our new one. I mean, I know you basically went into this blind. You'd only seen the trailers and read a few things. I'd pretty much the same. I didn't want to read any reviews. I read a couple of tweets. But other than that, I went into this fairly unspoiled. But it's as you, I think, described it, which is a perfect way of describing it. Even each Star Wars film up until this point felt like a complete film while also leaving the door open. Episode 1, like, it went from one end to the other, still with plenty of questions moving into episode 2. Little cliffhanger, but it was wrapped up at the end. Every single one, even Empire, which had sort of ended on like, oh no, Han's frozen and he's his dad, like, oh my god, like, it still ended. And this ended on a cliffhanger because it's like, here's Luke and oh my god, Rey's giving back the lightsaber to Luke, which, you know, we'll get to, and it's like, wow, and then
which is a positive and a negative thing, because it was an amazing moment, and I don't know if I would have been as pumped for episode 8 coming out of it if that stuff like that hadn't happened and we just got the film. I'd be like, alright, I can probably wait 2 years. And that made me really pumped up to see episode 8 straight after that. Like, I'd love to binge watch this trilogy. And again, in 4 years' time or whenever they're all out, we'll be looking back on this and, yeah, this was a really neat trilogy.
Yeah.
They tied everything together. This was great. But I just feel like they've written this and made this as a 3-part film where they're giving us bits and pieces here, and that they're purposely holding back information because they know they're guaranteed you've got a trilogy. They even have the damn release dates. So.
And this is a thing, I think, it's with a lot of modern filmmaking, and I mean, I honestly haven't seen a lot of the Marvel films, but I know there's heaps of like tie-ins and things that lead into movies. But look at recent trends, say with big franchises, you know, Harry Potter, you know, the final book they turned into 2 films so that they can stretch it out. I know they did that with like the Twilight films and the Hobbit and what do you call it, Hunger Games. I mean, the one that really I first remember really doing that, like the Matrix sequels and the big cliffhanger they ended the Matrix Reloaded on before they went into Revolutions. It's a thing they do, and it works. You want people to come back, but the difference is with Star Wars, it's like, yeah, a lot of these, like Harry Potter, everyone's always going to come back and say you don't need to because you know you've got that thing, but this is fucking Star Wars. Like, you could put a 10-hour film of Jar Jar Binks doing a shit and people are going to go and watch it, you know, because this is the type of film that Star Wars is.
I think overall, it kind of sounds like we're complaining. I did come out a bit unsatisfied with what was actually going on, and I don't know what the main plot of this is. Like, what is the overarching plot? Is it Ben Solo is going to take over the galaxy? Is it Snoke is going to do something? Is it Luke Skywalker is going to bring the Jedis back? And I guess you could argue with the prequels, even though we knew the ending, I guess you could argue that you don't know what the overall plot of Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones is. You could say that. But again, like, I'm not against holding back information and having some twists later on and some information, but I'd like to know what the film... I don't get a sense of what this trilogy is going to be.
And what's the title in reference to?
Yeah, well, I guess, yeah.
Who's awakening the Force? Is that meant to be Rey?
I think it was.
So the Force is awakening within Rey?
But it definitely seems like that was the Force in general, not just one Jedi. But yeah, we were kind of complaining about... I'm not against the whole...
We're complaining a lot.
The holding back information thing, that's not a huge issue for me now that I've thought about it a bit more. Because once we watch it as a complete trilogy, I'm sure it will be much stronger.
Well, again, we're jumping all over the shop here. We're not really... We're coming to this basically unplanned, but...
We've got no notes.
Kylo Ren, obviously, as we said, he is Han Solo and Princess Leia... Well, sorry, General Leia now, General Organa. That's their son. So there was lots of rumours coming into it, and we've got a list here that a newspaper article, which we might cover these depending on how we go with this episode. But there were lots of rumours about, is Rey this, new woman? Is that going to be Han and Leia's daughter? Is Finn even going to be? I heard a rumour that could be Luke's son, or things like this. But the only one that was sort of the payoff was Kylo Ren is Han Solo and Leia's son, which we learned through the Hobbit guy in a weird conversation, and you've got this General Hitler guy as well, who's there. So people are wondering what we're talking about. But and kind of
that was General Hux.
We get sort of this throwaway bit, that's son, and then finally when we get the payoff of seeing Han and Leia kind of finally seeing each other for a while, which again is never really explained. Like, are they separated? Were they married and now they're divorced? And like it's kind of played off like they're not together anymore, but then it's played off that they are together still. They're just maybe a bit distant with each other. Like,
well, yeah, we'll save our thoughts on Han, but that's an issue I had.
Yeah, so basically Kylo Ren, and like, look, he starts off as a great villain. Like, he's got like this mask on. It's obviously he's very much a fanboy of Darth Vader, because we get that great scene when he's talking to the helmet, like, I will finish what you started, and he's got the red lightsaber. He's, you know, got the Force, and like, this is like a great villain.
Yeah.
Until he takes his mask off.
Ben Solo.
Now, like, I see why they've done it, because we need to probably get some sort of payoff. Why is Han Solo's son wearing a Darth Vader mask? Like, it's a kind of a cool concept that the son of these main characters is evil. Like, rumours, I kind of liked it. He takes it off. He's an emo, broody, middle...
He's a moody teenager.
He's a moody teenager. He's long hair and, like, this is nothing against the actor. The actor was fine.
Yeah.
But there was just, like, it just took every ounce of evilness about him. Like, what if...
Like the man behind the curtain, the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, like, this would be like Darth Vader takes his helmet off halfway through Empire, and it's just like, I don't know, a pretty boy, and it's just like, oh, God, it's a long day. Like, it just takes it all away element, and that to me, like, I like this character of Kylo Ren. I think it's great. But, do the big reveal in the second or third one. We don't need that halfway through the first film.
And I feel like some of this script, not all of it, but some of this script is a bit off as well. And, like, the big reveal, your father, Han Solo.
Yeah.
Like, I think you even looked at me and maybe did a bit of a groan or something in the cinema. That was a huge issue I had. And again, like, I guess Kylo Ren, or Ben Solo, I'm calling him.
Ben Solo.
I guess he's the main baddie, and it's going to be in all three of them, or at least two of them we know. I thought maybe he might go this film. It was looking that way for a minute, but...
I like Darth Maul or something like that.
Yeah, which I can't say I'd be fine with, because we don't know how it's going to play out. That's a bit dumb, but... But
I mean, I remember with Phantom Menace how heavily promoted Darth Maul was, and when he died, I remember being shocked, like, oh, spoiler alert, I haven't seen that in Phantom Menace.
But, I just, again, it feels like been there, done that. We've done family members are the bad guys in pretty much all 6 of the films, especially the original 3. And now it's just like, again, as I said, exterminate the Skywalkers, because it's Luke's nephew is now the main bad guy after Luke's father was the main bad guy. Like, even with not just Star Wars films, this is a trope of modern cinema, is because I'm looking at you, James Bond, where the characters have to have this direct involvement. Like, spoiler for Spectre is, well, not really a spoiler, but James Bond, the character, like a British agent who has nothing to do with anything, they pick him because he's an orphan and he doesn't have ties to anyone. Seems to have ties to everyone in the new films, so...
And the main evil villain, this is a spoiler, the main evil villain is essentially his brother.
Yes, it's not just those two, like, it's such a trope of modern cinema, and we say that, but it was something in the old films, they did that, but it did seem unnecessary. We could have had a character called Kylo Ren, who was this Jedi, trained by Luke, and he's just a guy who's just corrupted by the dark side.
And I guess the reason why, though, they reveal this twist that it is Han and Leia's son is, I guess in this day and age of internet and rumours and speculation and forums and everything, if they didn't reveal anything in this film, you know it was always going to be like, oh, he's definitely going to be revealed as Luke's son and blah, 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 blah. So they get it over and done with, so that's it.
Well, there's a bit of that with Rey that we'll get.
Yeah, definitely. But I kind of think, though, that... Spoiler alert again, Han Solo dies. We'll get to that very soon. But
that's the name of this episode.
The fact is that you've got Han over and done with, and it's kind of like, this is his son, but now it's more about the Skywalker's offspring. So it's going to be Leia's son now, and obviously Luke's nephew. as kind of the real kind of like connection point, and can they turn him back? Like Han is, and this is no disrespect in taking Han out of it, and I'm not trying to be happy that Han's dead. We'll get to that, but it's kind of like, well, okay, you kind of feel, I guess, more of a personal connection to say the Skywalker's having to deal with this because Luke's already had to deal with this in his past, and I guess in a way, like, yeah, as you were saying, been there, done that before, but I guess the overwhelming plot of all the 9 Star Wars films will be in a few years is the Skywalker family,
which is fair,
and the fact their troubles, you know, like
which 10, 11, and 12 is about everyone in the galaxy teaming up to destroy the Skywalker.
Yes.
But yeah, that's fair. Like, we talk about the involvement, and I think that's a fair comment that. That's what Star Wars is. It's the Skywalker. That's what. There's so many stories in this galaxy that, and we're going to get some of them in the spin-off that we're getting. But there is so much out there that they could explore, but they choose to focus on the Skywalker generations. So that's fair in defense of Ben Solo. But you just have to think that they're building up this rematch of Luke versus Ben. You have to feel like that, but then there's also this Rey character.
I see what you're saying, but I'm going to lean more to the point that they're building it up as Ben versus Rey.
Well, is Ben going to kill Luke next film?
That wouldn't surprise me, and Luke becomes like a ghost.
It wouldn't surprise me only because as soon as it happened, and we'll talk about Han dying. Spoiler alert. We keep mentioning it. That was let's say it. That was the hands down the biggest, most.
That's the Luke, I'm your father moment of the film.
And everyone in that cinema knew that this is what the talking point would be.
And would you argue that could be the biggest moment in any Star Wars film since I'm Your Father?
You could maybe argue because this is Han Solo dying. But we'll get to that.
And the weird thing is, sorry to interrupt, it's just like because we're doing this within 24 hours of being in Australia. There's no American reaction. I googled Han Solo dies. There's not even I didn't go through forums, but there's not even much there's no news articles or anything. Not even spoiler reviews. Even on Twitter, it seems like somebody in one of the films last night has taken a photo of the moment when he dies. But this is huge.
Yeah,
we'll get to it. But
yeah, it's weird because it's just this impending thing where we know this is going to be everywhere, but it's weird because Australia never has first things first, and it's just we all know that this is going to be a massive moment, but none of the Americans or anything like that, and that's going to be huge once it hits America. But yeah, again, we'll talk about Han dying because that is definitely the Luke, I'm your father, or I am your father. No, I am your father. Sorry, shouldn't butcher my Star Wars quotes.
I'm just coughing around. Forgive me.
But on that point, while we're talking about Ben Solo, I just felt as soon as that moment happened that a big part of that was we need to have a villain who is bigger and badder than Darth Vader, and that's an impossible task. So how are we going to do that? We have the main villain kill off Han Solo which now that I'm talking makes me think that I wouldn't be surprised if the end of the next one is him taking down Luke as well. This is the biggest bastard ever. He's killing all our favourite characters from 30 years off. And then we're going to get Rey, The Force Awakens, who will take him down at the end. Pure speculation.
Well, I would almost put money on Luke not being alive at the end of this trilogy, but still being Ghost Luke. Spoiler alert: Luke lives in this film, by the way. If you're worried about that, but it's kind of interesting, like you were saying, like this big bad villain, and Darth Vader is arguably the most beloved villain in the history of cinema. Culture, everybody who knows anything in life knows who Darth Vader is, but. It's kind of interesting, like how this character, and as I said, like at the start, and he seems to be able to use the Force and all this. Like he seems to be able to read minds, and a different element of the Force and everything like that. But there were kind of like sort of this teenager mode of it. And maybe this is deliberate, but like moments when he's angry and he just gets his lightsaber and just trashes shit.
Again, he's just spoiled teenager. It seems like, and when things don't go his way, he just cuts things up with his saber.
But is this a Skywalker thing again? Like we saw a video, didn't we, the other day of kind of like Luke Skywalker in the first film was just kind of an annoying little teenage brat, and so was Anakin in like episode 2, basically annoying teenage brat.
Family.
So now in this one we've got annoying nephew teenage brat. Like
what are the chances of, by the end, Ben Solo turns to the light side before the very end of the film?
Extremely
As
high.
in, like, at the end of the second one or something.
I'd say more the third, but
But as in, not like Vader at the very end of Return, where he turns good at the end.
you have to have a very good villain to replace that. And we didn't really have any remnants of a teaser or anything.
Well,
who's the
we've
villain?
got this Snoke. Like,
Oh, Hobbit man, or General Hitler.
yeah, General Hitler, which we just say that right now, the most blatant Nazi thing I've ever seen in cinema. They weren't even trying to hide the fact that these are Nazis.
The Nazi scene with the stormtroopers giving the Sieg Heil salute to General Hitler.
The other thing we have to remember is every Star Wars film always is set a few years later, which is going to be very fascinating for this, if this is set like 2 years later, as in how far we will be with Luke and Rey and stuff like that.
I've got a feeling it won't be this time, because the way it's
They
ended.
will pick up maybe a few months later or a week or something, so maybe we haven't met the big bad yet, and maybe Ben Solo will join the light side.
It's a good point, because, or somebody we've already met is the big bad, a la Phantom Menace.
Leia.
You know, well, you don't know. Like, Phantom, like, I mean, the rumour is always that Luke Skywalker's really evil.
Well, we knew Palpatine was bad, but yeah.
Yeah, but like,
I know what you mean.
It's still kind of, though, it's not super obvious, really. If you went into episode 1 not knowing anything about Star Wars, you're not going to pick that up, and Darth Maul, the big villain, he's dead. Okay, who's the bad guy? So, and kind of in the prequels, like, each one had a new person introduced as the villain, I guess. Like, you know, you had Dooku, and then you had Grievous, and...
We're definitely going to have a new villain next film, even if it's not the main villain.
Yeah. And it's interesting, though, like, as you were saying, like, I mean, we'll get to the Hound death, but it was kind of like there was that moment there where we thought, oh, hang on, he's turning good already. But I don't know, like, I definitely feel he will turn good at some point, as kind of will be the whole Luke trying to battle his nephew, come back with it, and a la, you know, Empire, Return of the Jedi. You know, it's just got to be, as you said, this is A New Hope. Episode 8 will be Empire remade, and Episode 9 will just be Jedi. But maybe they'll mix it up. Maybe Episode 8 will be remake of Attack of the Clones, and Episode 9 will just be a mixture of Sith and Jedi. So
yeah, again, this is just jumping all over the place, but that's just my biggest problem with this film, is they didn't do something new. But speaking of new, we've got a few. Well, pretty much Han Solo was a big part of the film. Luke is obviously going to be next film. We've got General Organa, but really...
very minor character, really, later in this film.
Yeah, we'll get to a potential reason why.
How you going, kids?
Yeah, this was really dominated by a new cast of Star Wars characters, and we've already talked a bit about Kylo Ren, but what were your thoughts on our new stars? We had Finn, the Stormtrooper, and Rey, the potential Force Awakening Jedi, and we also had Poe, I think his name was, Leia's best captain. I think they were the three main ones. There are a few, and maybe we'll talk about the droids soon, but overall I think this was a more positive part of the film, and something that did work in my eye.
I definitely think they've done a very good job in casting unknowns. Which is great. I mean, I think Star Wars, what they do well is do that. Like, Star Wars makes stars out of people. No pun intended. I mean, Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher are household names based off the back of Star Wars. Hayden Christensen is known for Star Wars. Natalie Portman was known before the prequels, but I would argue these were the films that really made her into a star. Ewan McGregor, you could even argue that too. Again,
I think Ewan was maybe a bit more.
Well, I mean, both were known before. I think Harrison Ford was slightly known because he'd done like American Graffiti and all that, hadn't he? But like, you know, I would argue that these were the films that really made Ewan McGregor and Natalie Portman A-listers. And this is what they're going to be doing now in this film. So Daisy Ridley is Rey, and we've got John is a Boyega as Finn. Now, we were reading up on Daisy before, and really had done not a lot, and John has done not a lot. I like them.
Daisy Ridley has a long career ahead of her.
Oh, and very much so. I mean, she's beautiful, she's young, she's a great actress. She's, and I would just, we were kind of talking about, I mean, the two main ones are Finn and Rey. They are the two main ones, and they've obviously...
They're in pretty much every scene, if you think about it.
Exactly, and I mean, a key thing of this too, obviously got to point out, they've gone for the diversity, lead with a sort of an African, well, he's British, so, black guy, we can say that, black actor, and obviously female lead as well, which is great, it's fantastic. And one thing which I kind of said to you, and this kind of sounds strange, and I'm not trying to mean this to be an offence if this sounds strange when I'm saying it, but within 10, 15, 20 minutes of this film, you don't even realise that's anymore. They're just acting, and it's great. And that's what I think worked. There were elements with Rey that it was like, oh, she's a strong woman. Like the scene when she's being attacked and...
You don't need no help.
Yeah, exactly. But it was, at the end of the day, that was brushed aside fairly well. Which was one thing I don't like about films and TV shows when they're trying to make it diverse is they really have to emphasise, oh, she's a woman and she's got to fight for it. He's
It takes away from the whole thing they're trying to do with...
exactly.
With creating strong women, if you have to point out what you're doing...
I don't need to sit through a 2-hour film to, root for a strong female lead by understanding what they're going... I just want to have a strong female lead as a strong female lead. And that's what Rey was.
Or as a strong lead.
Well, exactly.
Not a strong
You're exactly right. Don't even separate it. Exactly, 100% correct there. Perfectly put. And Rey was that. She was great. Her character was great. The acting was fantastic. And the developing storyline with her, of course, again, Force Awakens, she's discovering the Force. And this is something that's never explained. It's there. And obviously, the obvious point is she's Luke Skywalker's daughter, which is going to be the strong fan theory for the coming years. That's what I believe. I think you might be a bit more sceptical on that. Essentially, we see kind of with that is that she's on... is it Jakku? Is that the planet? Jakku. Tatooine.
Jakku.
She's a scavenger essentially. She has to go down Star Destroyers to get parts to a weird alien thing to...
Her parents have left.
Get food, and her whole point is,
take them away.
She's waiting for her parents to arrive.
That's why she's hesitant to leave, even though she obviously hates them.
Because she has... I'm assuming she doesn't know why, or we don't really know much of that backstory. And then we go to this planet and she randomly goes into this cupboard thing and touches a lightsaber that gives her weird flashbacks, which is not very Star Wars. Maybe we'll touch on that separately. And then she starts to discover that she's got a bit of the Force within her. And we have a bit of a lightsaber battle with her later with Kylo Ren. And she's Jedi mind trick, exactly, and she's the one who is the first person to see Luke Skywalker, which, again, as I keep saying to you, wouldn't Luke Skywalker turn around and go, who the fuck are you? Where's Chewie? Where's Han? Where's Leia? But she was great. Stand out for me. She was a star, and I really have nothing bad to say about her. I really don't, and that's kind of strange in a film which we're nitpicking everything. Nothing bad to say about her. Finn... I'm probably a bit more up on Finn than you were. I'm not saying you don't like Finn.
Down on Finn.
Well, I think you had a few things about Finn, but
I do.
I liked him. I like kind of this element of he's a stormtrooper turned good. Very centric on stormtroopers, this film. I'm a fan of stormtroopers. I've always liked...
Right, we go inside the stormtroopers.
I've always liked stormtroopers, but... There was maybe a bit too much, on Stormtroopers.
The charm in Stormtroopers is that they are this disposable army.
Yeah.
Not that you care for every single one of them and their families and everything.
Yeah, exactly. And, I mean, Finn as a character, he was almost the comedic value. We joke he's Luke, he's Black Luke, but he's more Han Solo. Yeah. To me, he's... Han Solo, Black Han Solo. And that's not meaning to be racist, that's just, I think, what he is. But... He's still good. He's not as good as Rey, and this is a developing love story between the two. Well, clearly that's something...
I don't think it was done well. We can talk about that.
But I mean, I didn't like the fact that he used a lightsaber at one point. I mean, he used Luke's lightsaber, Stormtrooper using a lightsaber, and he kind of was... battling with Kylo Ren a little bit too well with a lightsaber. This is a guy with no force powers, and if I pick up a lightsaber and I'm taking on a guy with the powers of the force, I'm getting my ass kicked.
I did like the lightsaber bit only because it made the Rey stuff more of a surprise. Because, again, I didn't read anything of this, and yeah, there's always the thought that maybe she's a Jedi or something, but that was a bit of a shock to me that, she's the Jedi, because we saw in all the promos Finn with a lightsaber. So I didn't mind the lightsaber stuff, but I do think he was a bit too good on the lightsaber.
And the other ones, like Poe, like... sounds like a Teletubby. He was good at the beginning.
The new Wedge.
Yeah, the new Wedge, and I always like Wedge, and we didn't really get to see a whole lot of him, but it's kind of, you're meant to believe he's dead, and really, I kind of think was obvious that he was going to come back. And yeah, he was fine. I
liked him.
Yeah, like, I have nothing bad or good. Like, he's just there. Like, I don't know. Like, he was, yeah. And what, we talk about the droid, Bebop, B-80?
I'll leave that for
Boa, whatever the hell it is.
We'll cover all the droids together, I think, because there's a lot to add there.
I guess they're kind of really the only real main ones that we could talk about. I mean, yeah, we already talked about Kylo Ren.
There were other background characters.
Yeah.
I'm forgetting the older lady.
The weird glass. General Hitler, I mean...
Oh, yeah, that's... Yeah.
I guess we can talk about him. What's his name? Not Senator. General
Hux.
General Hux. Like, it's interesting with Star Wars movies, that particularly the original trilogies, like, you always kind of had that disposable general. Like, we had it in each of the films. Tarkin and all that sort of stuff. But... he's still alive, General Hux. He's basically working with Kylo Ren and Snooky Head Man. Snooky, I don't know.
Well, that's a good point, because neither Kylo or Hux were the main, like, I guess they've got their own emperor.
Yeah, well, this is it. And, like, it's kind of strange with Hux, because you never saw any of the generals with Darth Vader talking to the Emperor. Well, you kind of did, but it wasn't like they're in with this plan, and General Hux's plan was to destroy the Republic. He came up with that idea, like, hey, let's test this out and destroy the Republic. Get rid of it. Yeah. I had an issue with that. Let's just quickly...
Get to that.
We get to that? I just wanted to quickly touch on that.
Let's talk about that.
I, for one, thought the Republic was dead. I thought we established in New Hope that the Senate and all that sort of stuff was crushed, and, okay, fair enough, over 30 years they could have brought it back up again. But... this sounds really strange, and the fact that everybody went into this to try and completely forget about the prequels and not believe they ever existed. I wanted there to be some sort of reference to that original prequels, like something. Connecting. I love continuity. I love it. All we got was the fact that Coruscant gets blown up. Yeah. Now, we don't officially know it's Coruscant, but it has to be. That's where the Republic was based.
It looks like Coruscant.
It was a city planet, and again, the Republic was based in Coruscant, and
they were, so they could have chosen somewhere new, but it looked like Coruscant.
Very true. I turned to you and I said, this is Disney's way of shitting all over the prequels. Yeah. Like, fuck you, prequels, we're going to destroy Coruscant. Yeah. And I didn't like that. I didn't like that. Again, A New Hope, we're going to destroy a random planet. I mean, this, not that I want them to destroy Naboo, I like Naboo, but this is the perfect way to kill Jar Jar Binks off. Like, Misa see giant light bulb!
And it's kind of like, apparently they've got a planet destroying. I don't know where they got it from, but they can destroy planets. And
is it a planet, or have they built it into a planet?
Oh, the Death Star, yeah.
What's it called? Star Killer or something,
We couldn't tell if it was a planet that they've built onto, or if they've built a planet. But yeah, they went from having push a button and destroy Alderaan to having this big blast through space, and it was like, you nearly hit the Star Destroyer there. Like,
it was so slow.
I didn't like that they destroyed a planet in this film.
And wouldn't...
because it's just like, we've seen that happen.
And again, wouldn't technology advance in 30 years? Like, why have they built a moon-sized thing that can destroy planets in seconds to a planet-sized thing that can destroy planets in about 10 minutes?
Well, they've got to take some sacrifices. But they did say, here's the original Death Star, and here's the new one. It was much, much bigger, but... yeah, maybe you talked about if the technology has progressed, but not a lot has progressed in this film from Return of the Jedi. Like, we're still very... But I'll give my thoughts on Rey and Finn, but I think the other one would be Captain Phasma, I think. Her name is the lady from Game of Thrones.
Gold Droid.
Silver. Was it gold?
Was it gold or silver?
think it's
Chrome droid.
Yeah, Chrome droid captain. Did you like that?
It was random. I mean, again, this kind of adds to the whole element of stormtroopers a little bit more. Like, I'm not to say I didn't like some of the stormtrooper stuff, but I mean, do we really need to know that if a stormtrooper takes their helmet off, like that they're, you know, like I kind of used to joke about Attack of the Clones was just stormtrooper backstory, and it's since been explained to me that the clones are separate to the stormtroopers. It was kind of a precursor to them, but we almost get a backstory really now of stormtroopers, that they're kind of stolen away from families when they're very young. I mean, this is like the stolen generation from Australia, a very dark time in our history. This is stormtroopers. This is horrible, like stealing away from families to force them into a military. But yeah, I mean, she was okay. It was just random, I guess. I'm not...
Again, this is not a gender thing, but if all other stormtroopers are male... Well, we don't know that, so I guess you can't... Everyone we've heard are male, but I guess there could be female ones.
It could just be very masculine-sounding women.
Yeah, I'm not going to go there, because then now that I think about it, there could be female stormtroopers that we just never hear. But I was going to say, why is there just a random female captain when every single other person in the entire First Order is male? But
yeah.
Maybe there is females. But then, yeah, on that, they don't even give them names.
Yeah, that's a bit weird.
And then he becomes Finn. But then my kind of flaw with him... Essentially, this was his first mission and he didn't want to kill anyone. But then we cut to when they're on the planet with the lightsaber. And suddenly they go... Well, Finn's killing 10 stormtroopers. He's never killed anyone in his life, but then when the stormtroopers invade, he kills them. Yet he talks about how he was an orphan and how he was... So surely he would know, like, yeah, he's maybe fighting for his life, but he's just killed heaps of his brothers. Like, that didn't really make sense to me.
And the scene of traitor with random lightsaber stormtrooper guy.
Oh, yeah, like... We've discovered that not everyone wants to be part of the First Order, or not everyone wants to be a stormtrooper. Some are forced into it, and then he's gone and just killed them.
And sorry to interrupt, 'cause I know you're going to talk about the characters, but so when he's taken away and we're learning this whole story about stormtroopers essentially kidnapped, is this what happened in the days of the Empire, or is this just a First Order thing? Like, are the First Order being portrayed as more evil than the Empire because they kidnap kids to become new stormtroopers, and they're essentially Hitler Nazi dictators who give Sieg Heil salutes to General Hux? Like, is that what they're meant to be?
Yeah, I feel like it could almost be a completely different thing, because this has been 30 years, but I feel like it's quite unclear of who runs the stormtroopers and why they're still around. Like, when the Empire fell...
What happened
to all the stormtroopers, and who gathered them around to say, all right, we're going to stay true to this? Like,
there would have been some random ones left on planets, you know, yeah.
But I feel like a lot of them would have just went back to their families, and that because people were drafted into this.
Random stormtroopers go back to their families. Honey, sorry, I've lost my job. The Empire has been destroyed.
Yeah. But I liked Finn, though, but my biggest problem was they did force the comedy into him a bit, and making him the dumb bum character. But he was good. I actually liked the lightsaber stuff just because it made the Rey stuff a bit more surprising. But I didn't love the love story because it felt we've only got one main lead and one main female and one main male. And I said to you that this film probably takes place over about 3 days or something. And they forced that a lot down their throat.
They didn't have months in a Montenegrin clinic, did they? Hashtag download 007 Casino Royale reference.
But, I don't know, maybe this is just a red herring and it's really like Poe and Rey are going to be...
They say Poe and Finn. Well, I actually should laugh at that. That's very modern. Why not?
Yeah.
That would be very good for them to do that.
The first black stormtrooper. No, we got the first gay stormtrooper.
Seriously,
this is 30 years after the Dark Time.
I'd actually honestly be all for that. Like, progressive. Anyway, sorry.
Progressive stormtrooper.
We'll start that rumour. Poe and Finn. We'll ship them.
Pin.
Yes, Pin.
Yeah. Faux pin.
Pinot.
It could end up being that it's more of a Rey and Poe thing, like a layer.
Or a love triangle.
Yeah, please no.
And then we find out one's their brother and sister and they're kissing. No!
Yeah, well, that's why.
Chewie and Rey.
Yeah. Oh, they seem to. He likes you, Chewie. Oh, she likes you. Yeah.
Well, why doesn't Chewie fall in love?
Yeah, we need a Mrs. Chewie.
Yeah. Wasn't there a Mrs. Chewie in something?
The holiday special. Yeah. Let's ship Chewie and.
Chewie and Finn.
Like, what would Chewie and Rey be like? Ray Barker. Or something.
Ray Barker. Shay.
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 Yeah. So yeah. Hashtag love for Chewie. I didn't like the love stuff, but maybe it will progress a bit stronger next film. It just seemed a bit forced down our throats, no pun intended. And I'm not sure they did have chemistry, but I'm not sure if they had love chemistry, did they? Like, did you buy that those two people?
I just apologise for people here hearing me choking to death.
And also, like...
It always got me in a force grip. Answer the question.
And even, not even the love, even it's like, oh, Poe and Finn are best friends now. Like, yeah, he helped him escape, but like...
I didn't buy it.
Everyone got together so quickly in this film.
I didn't buy it. It's... He was more into her than she was into him. Mm. And it's more of a close friendship. They've got great chemistry. I'm not trying to say they don't have chemistry. It's not a love chemistry. It's a... Yeah.
It could be. It didn't feel like that yet.
Well, it's kind of like, again, going back to imagine seeing A New Hope for the very first time and not knowing anything that, you know, what we know now. I guess in a way that's kind of like that with like Luke's perving on Leia. Oh, she's beautiful, like, you know, and then when he rocks up in the Stormtroopers, kind of got that little hot head nod, like, oh my god, you're gorgeous. And then it's more of Han and Leia flirting, but you kind of never really get a whole lot in that film, like, well, who's really into who? Like, yeah. Luke obviously likes, and even in Empire, you've got a bit of that, obviously with the kiss and all that sort of stuff that's happening. So maybe there's a bit of that. I don't know, I mean, I can see what you're saying with the Poe stuff, but was there really enough there for anything? I don't know. I mean, maybe there just won't be any love story in this. Like, I mean, I think there will be, but
I like sand.
Yes. It's because I'm so in love with you. Is that because love has blinded you? Hold me like you did on Naboo, Ray.
I wish I could just wish my feelings away.
Not defending the prequels with that.
That goes out of defense.
Could you tell Luke? Is that who you could tell?
You could tell Finn.
Forget it. Hold me.
Hold Chewie. Hold me, Chewie.
Han Solo moment. No, he's dead.
But I don't buy the love story.
No.
Finn's an okay character. I don't have too much to add on Rey, only because you've covered it, and I agree with most that you said. Probably definitely the best new character, and I don't really have... I think The Force Awakens was a bit forced, like, oh, she can do Jedi mind tricks. But then the one theory I have read today, like, I've read nothing on it except for one webpage I visited. Someone said, well, sorry, I'm blanking on... Rey had Jedi training on Jakku. Mm-hmm. Like, she seemed very way with the Force. She could already do Jedi mind tricks, and she was pretty neat on the saber, but she did look more inexperienced than anyone else we've ever seen on a saber. So, but that's a potential that maybe she had a bit of training, and then her trainer got taken away that we saw on the...
Well, this is where it's kind of interesting. Well, we don't really know a whole lot about her parents getting taken away and stuff like that. And maybe she's, like, I can see that training, and maybe that was when she was younger and she's remembering, and that's why it's awakening in her.
It was halted.
And that's why touching that lightsaber, it's like, oh my god, like, bringing back memories. And then, like, when she's thinking about the trick, and obviously blocking from Ben Solo reading a mind and all this sort of stuff, and then it's kind of like the Luke moment, like, you know, we can joke about, like, takes his hood off, who the fuck are you? Like, maybe it's going to be like, we left you on the thing and I never thought I'd see you again, and father? Like, I don't know. But
I didn't like the lightsaber bit, because that felt like something out of Lord of the Rings. They needed a way to do a flashback, and the way they did it,
Yeah, it's not a Star Wars thing.
Touch the lightsaber. Oh, flashback.
The closest we've ever had to that is, here we go with the prequels again, Anakin's dream sequences in
Yeah, but that's a
Sith.
bit different though.
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't like it.
They were more visions of the future.
Like, they needed something to show some more of what happened between the 30 years. So, yeah, maybe it was the Force doing their magic.
We did this on our Spectre ones, where we asked a question, is Blofeld, what's his name, Blofeld?
Christopher.
Thank you. Let's just flat out ask the question, is Rey Luke Skywalker's daughter?
You seem very high on that. But then the other thing I said is Rey is Ben Solo's sister. That was a brother versus sister battle. Because when they had Carrie...
They're still cousins though, if that's Luke Skywalker's.
Yeah, they're still cousins, yeah. When we had General Organa there and her hugging, I'm like, geez, they kind of look a bit similar. And they kind of have this thing in their eyes when they look at each other.
Auntie and niece.
Either way, they're all damn related in this film anyway.
It's just Tasmania.
So, I would not be surprised Luke Skywalker's daughter. That would be really, like, not a shock to anyone. But I also think Han Solo. But one thing I'm kind of hoping is neither. Rey is Rey.
Yeah. That would be good. That probably would be the best twist out to come out of that. Because
it's not the family for one.
I know I'm not the only one out there who is saying that. I mean, I think everybody in that theatre was thinking exactly the same thing. Every Star Wars fan right now is thinking that is the case. And maybe, and that's the smart thing that they're going to do with this, is make you believe that. And as you said, Rey is just Rey.
They did it with Finn and the saber. Well, Finn's a Jedi, or he's going to become a Jedi. No, it's Rey, but...
Yeah.
She was a great character.
Oh, she was brilliant. And massive props to it. And I hope they continue it with that, because she's going to be a star.
She's the star of the new films as well.
Yeah, like, absolutely. Absolutely.
And take away from Finn.
Yeah, I was going to say, don't take away from it, because Finny's great as well.
Even.
Yeah. I guess we should talk about the old crew, though. But, like, before we get to the Han Dai stuff and all this sort of... But I guess the big, real... nostalgic part for any Star Wars fan, and we were in a cinema where people cheered.
Yeah, cheered.
The reveals of the people, and they handled it well. Like Han and Chewie coming on the Millennium Falcon, that got the biggest cheer.
Yeah. I wish we didn't see that in the trailer now.
Yeah.
But it was great.
But as soon as they walked on that ship, I knew straight away that was a trailer moment. Like, Han, Chewie, we're home.
But, yeah, they shouldn't have used it in the trailer in hindsight, but who cares? It was epic.
Even Leia, like, coming off that, and they played Leia's theme.
Yeah.
Just point out the music in this film. Great again. John Williams has to be come back with this. Fantastic. Yeah, and like the reveal of Leia, C-3PO was tied beautifully in with Leia. Like, that was hilarious. Like, we're complaining about the humour in this film. I'm not saying all of it was bad.
Yeah. It wasn't Jar Jar.
No, exactly. Random red arm from C-3PO. There's constant debate. We're going to have that. R2-D2 giving up on life. He's seen so much in the universe.
Emo D2.
He comes at the end and basically reveals a pointless piece of information that they didn't need at the end. But anyway, and... I mean, even nostalgic things too. Like, I love seeing like the crashed Star Destroyers and just things like that, and obviously Luke at the end, which we sort of already discussed a little bit about. And can I say, very, very, very Chewie-centric film.
Yeah.
Very Chewie-centric.
The most Chewie we've had, I think.
Yeah, very much so. And it was like... Chewie's great, and I think I said to you yesterday, I remember when I first watched Star Wars, I hated Chewie.
Get off.
But... yeah, the Chewie-centricness of this was interesting, but yeah, that scene with Han reveal was amazing. Han was great, like Harrison Ford.
Yeah, he was the star of the film.
He still got it, and like the thing is with Harry, and we were talking a little bit about this, like with the Indiana Jones factor. Like you do these franchises, continue them after all these years, you bring back the actors, and it's hit or miss.
It can become very like a parody or a comical thing,
and. I mean, in seeing Harrison Ford in Indy, like, there were problems with that in the fourth one.
Yep.
Lots of problems with that one. And I was worried that this was going to go down the same route. And not every bit was perfect, but it was as best as you could get with it. And I think this is the character, like, Harrison Ford's a brilliant actor, and he can play up to so many different characters. He's so renowned, obviously, for Han Solo, Indiana Jones, and all those different things, but this is the character that is Harrison Ford to a T, I feel. And
he was amazing.
yeah, he was great. And the chemistry with Chewie as well, it's still there. Leia, well, look, Carrie Fisher looks amazing. Like,
yeah, she looked good.
That
was a fear.
She has had some troubles over the years, and this is... Actually, we'll go back. Harrison Ford looks great too. Mark Hamill looks great. They all look great. And that to me personally, and this, I know this kind of makes me around sound really shallow, that was a real thing for me. Like, I'd seen what they'd look like post Star Wars, and I was worried. Like, oh,
they
wow.
They do a lot of work to get into the shape for them.
Harrison Ford looked amazing. Carrie Fisher looked amazing. She's had a lot of troubles over the years with substance abuse and weight issues, and she's gotten into this film perfectly. And I don't know, this is not trying to sound mean, but her voice...
Yeah.
Like, she sounded like a 50-a-pack-a-day smoker. It was Patty and Selma from The Simpsons. Like, where's Han? Oh, I miss you. Like, It
was gone, which is a shame.
Yeah.
And I said to you that, if you really think about it, she probably only had, like, 4 lines of dialogue in this film. And I'm not sure. I'm convinced that may have been intentional.
Well, this is the thing I was saying to you as well, is that on my rewatch of the original trilogy, like... kind of, like, I've always liked Leia. I've never not liked Leia, and I've always liked the character, but this time around was like the real first time I've ever really noticed just how much of a badass Princess Leia is and how much of a great, strong character she is as well.
I'm excited to see what she does with the...
Well, this is it, but this was like her weakest film. Like,
yeah.
There was recently a video I watched on YouTube where they were kind of going over Revenge of the Sith and talking about Natalie Portman in the prequels, about how, like, the third one basically turned into barefoot and pregnant after being such a strong character in the first 2 films. Like, this was that. Like, let's just get Leia talking a lot on screen. And
she was still commanding some army.
Still commanding, and good on her, and like she's a general.
She's going to want some revenge as well after her.
Oh, the scene which we'll get to Han when he dies, but just the scene when she kind of like obviously realizes he's died. That was very powerful. But yeah, like how is she still not a princess? Like, I don't know how she loses her royal title just because she becomes a general.
Well, in fairness, she has no country to be princess to.
No planet.
Got blew up.
Yeah, true. And I guess we don't really need to go over Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker again.
Yeah. He was only in a scene of the movie.
Yep.
Everyone assumed it would be something like that because he wasn't in the...
I think it explains a lot why he wasn't in the trailer.
Yeah, because there was nothing to use. They literally had one scene. But pretty much this whole film was about him, despite him not being in there. But yeah, that's Luke. He was great in his one scene.
Just an incredible scene. And the more and more I think about it, favourite scene in the movie, I'm probably going to say. I mean... one of the tweets I did read did say the last scene in this movie is incredible.
It was incredible.
The more and more I watched this film, and the less and less time we had left, and like, where's Luke? Where's Luke? Where's Luke? It was kind of dawning on me, like, obviously the last scene is the reveal of Luke. And
well, I thought they would even cut it before that. Chewie and Rey would fly off, and we'd have...
Yeah, that's what I was thinking there for a bit too. The one thing though that sort of amazed me, like we talked about the silence of when Han dies, that Luke bit didn't get as much reaction as I thought it would, and it was more, I think, shock and awe.
And maybe because people knew that, this is the end, and like...
But that scene, like the walking up the steps, and
you knew what was coming.
Yeah, you knew it, and then you saw this hooded figure, and you're like, oh, there he is.
It's Luke.
And then I actually thought it was going to end because he kind of turned his head, and you saw him. You could see it was Mark Hamill, you could see it was Luke, and you're kind of like, they're going to end it there. When he pulled the hood off, and she's holding out his lightsaber, like, that's it there. That's why we came to see this film.
The lightsaber that's been there since, Attack of the Clones, pretty much.
But that's
been handed down.
That right there was why you paid to see that movie.
Yeah.
Like, Han reveal, great. Leia, great. You know, everything about that, was great. But Luke, we talk about Darth Vader being... most beloved villain of all time. Luke Skywalker is, arguably the most beloved, hero of cinema history. Yeah. And that is right there what we were waiting to see.
So you liked that scene better than Han died? Spoiler.
Well, I didn't like Han dying.
Yeah. I didn't like that either. I was furious.
In terms of Hall of Fame iconic scenes, the two that are definitely those.
Yeah, those.
Although, like, that's not to take away from some of the newer characters in this film. I mean, Ray and Finn had iconic scenes, which I'm sure over time will, come down to. It wasn't a very quotable movie, can I just point out? Like, I feel like all the Star Wars movies have quotable moments.
Yeah, plenty of them.
And there's
even the old ones.
There's not a lot in these.
I don't like sand. Even the bad one.
Maybe I killed a Jedi. That's impossible. You can't kill a Jedi.
Are you an angel?
Yes, you're a funny little boy. How rude! No, Ben, no, you crossed the line.
I always dream of that little.
They've gone in the ventilation shaft.
Yeah, all those classic prequel quotes.
But yeah, not a very big quotable movie.
Killing younglings.
I hate them. I hate all of them.
Well, yeah, that's where Ben Solo gets it from his grandfather. I hate them.
Well, actually, when he said that bit about his you're my grandfather, I honestly had to think for a little bit. I'm like, how is he his grandfather? Like, do Han and Luke call each other brothers now? And I'm like, oh,
everyone
Leia.
forgets about Leia being a Skywalker.
What were we talking about? Oh, the reveals and the characters and that. I'll let you talk, because we're obviously going to talk about Han dying very separately.
Do you think Leia, any chance of her awakening some Force, or no? No chance?
Well, she's obviously got some in her if she's feeling that pain of the death. Like, I mean, that's a Yoda scene right there when, it's all happening around it. Or like a Obi-Wan Kenobi scene. First movie ever not to have Obi-Wan Kenobi, by the way, as you pointed out.
I don't want to see Leia with a lightsaber.
No, I don't want to see Leia with a lightsaber. She'd break a hip. Like,
we don't need that.
I shouldn't say. That's horrible. Carrie Fisher looks amazing. Good job. But yeah, just the nostalgia gasms in this film were just second to none. And we should mention the Millennium Falcon, of course, when they're running through the desert and like, let's get that one. No, that's a piece of junk. Boom. And then, let's take the piece of junk. And that got a gasp. Yeah. That got a cheer. The Millennium Falcon. Sets looked amazing too, can we point out?
Everything about locations, battles, everything looked flawless.
They did that perfectly. Like, that Millennium Falcon looked it was the Millennium Falcon. Yeah. And the one thing which I don't think we even talked about last night was the bit when the Millennium Falcon's escaping and he's in that little swivelly chair bit with the thing, like in A New Hope. Yeah, and they've actually got the weird 1970s graphics, which were incredible. And even like the TIE fighters, we had a backstory about why they have to turn those little knob bits, which has always been a question, I'm sure, debated by fans over these. Why are they winding something up?
Star Wars geeks have finally lost their mind.
Exactly.
We also didn't mention that the game that R2-D2 plays Chewie in A New Hope. We got the game.
Oh, the chess. Yeah, exactly. Nice little throwbacks.
I think that may have got a bit of a cheer, I think, from memory. Yeah. I think I was a little bit disappointed about the lack of Luke around halfway through the film, but by the end, just that reveal made up for it, and I'm kind of glad they chose to hold back on Luke for this one and bring him one thing, and we'll get to Han dies. I'm sad we don't get to see Luke and Han together, and maybe they'll have Ghost or something, but I thought Leia was great, but you're right, the voice, it just takes away from it a bit. And we'll talk about the droids, but yeah, Chewie is just...
I liked it.
Yeah, I liked having a lot and I feel like based on the end of the last one, the end of this one, is that maybe Chewie will become a pretty prominent character in Episode 8. He's flying the Falcon with Rey at the very end. I liked it. You felt for Chewie like you always have when he was shot. Like, Chewie's shot. He's hurt.
I thought he was going to die there.
And then when Han... We'll get to it. When Han dies, Chewie goes... That was the only bit where I almost shed a tear there, seeing Chewie lose...
mine in a minute, yeah.
That was just devastating. Chewie, I kind of wish they added a bit of grey. I think I said that would have been a fun touch.
He ages well, Chewbacca.
Yeah, Chewie's looking... Out of all of the originals, Chewie is looking the best.
Yeah, definitely. Hasn't aged a day. What's the actor's name?
Peter May.
That's it, yeah.
He was great. That was Chewie. That was the Chewie that we know and love.
Yep.
Him and Han were the stars of this film. them showing up together. So we didn't get any Luke and Han, but I'm so glad we got some Chewie and Han. But then that's my other issue with the Leia stuff is we waited 30 films for this, and again
30 films?
30 years.
Wow.
And again, Han dies, but like we waited all these years. Fans lost their mind that they're bringing back the original cast. We've been waiting for this. Forget the prequels. Blow up Coruscant. Screw Jar Jar. And we never really got to see Han and Leia together.
And we didn't even know what the deal is with them.
Yeah. And maybe that will be explored. Like, we can still find out through Ben Solo and Leia and all that.
We're not going to get flashbacks, are we?
Yeah, touch this lightsaber. But it's just, again, maybe it's just our childhood perceptions of the end of Return of the Jedi. Leia and Han get married. Like, they obviously don't get married.
It was mentioned they were married, though, wasn't it, in the movie?
Yeah. But, like, in Return or...
No, in this film.
Yeah, I believe
they did mention at some point a wedding or something.
Yeah, I think they mentioned they were married, but at the Return, we all assumed, they're going to go on to marry, they're going to not rule the galaxy, but they're going to be high prominent figures.
But I think that was in one of the stories I read from the books, is that was one of the plots, was that Princess and he was,
would assume at the end of it, and assumingly that was at some point, but we never got to see it in bringing back Carrie Fisher and Harrison Ford. They had some great scenes together in this film, but we never got to see the true Han and Leia, and we never will unless we have lightsaber flashback.
And also, like, in killing Han off, he's not a Jedi, so we're not going to get Ghost Han.
Yeah. Again, I would love to see Han back, but that would be too gimmicky now if they did that.
I read an interesting comment about one of the few things I saw about his death. And I think there was even more of a speculation post. I don't think this had actually been confirmed. It was sort of reading a strong rumour about it. And they were saying that it would make sense because Harrison Ford was the oldest out of all of them, and will he really commit to a few more years and all this sort of stuff. And I mean, Harrison Ford, I think, is kind of always known that he generally didn't want to do all three, and he did ask George Lucas a lot to kill him off. And sort of, if you look at it, like, Harrison Ford did a lot of promo for this film, and he's generally one not to do that sort of stuff, and it kind of makes sense now looking at it, but it's still, like, the no Luke Han scene, that's the kicker. That sucks. Like, we just needed something. Like, we even saw it in that bit where they mentioned Luke Skywalker, and he stopped and just a look on his face. Like, I mean, that's one of my favourite sort of pairs in movie history is Luke and Han.
Yeah.
Like, it's just great. And yeah, you're right. The Leia and Han scenes are great. And just that first moment when they see each other again.
That was the best one, the first one.
And like even that hug, and it's so strange to think they shared probably 2 minutes of screen time on the entire film, but it was just so memorable just because that's what you remember.
That's some of the more memorable scenes is Han and Leia. But I guess another thing is, it's a trap!
Yeah.
Admiral Akbar's back.
And the Mexican dude.
Yeah.
I can never remember his name. Random Admiral. Do we know Admiral Akbar was coming back?
I think
He'd gotten grey. Did you notice he'd gotten a bit grey?
We had a bit... He doesn't age like Chewie.
And I love that people in the cinema actually went, "It's a trap!" when they saw it. I was waiting for that line. Like, we got the... I've got a bad feeling about... we obviously get the, stereotypical, I've got a bad feeling about this, and a few throwaway C-3PO classic lines, but I was honestly waiting for It's a Trap.
It's a Trap, though. But that was fun to see him back. And a few cool new... we've got... someone from Lost was in there. Someone from Heroes in there. Like, we had some cool new background characters as well.
I will commend them for not like, there's random Tom Cruise in the back. Like, they didn't have to. And I remember with the prequels, actually, I mean, they did a very good job in the prequels. It's funny to kind of watch them now because you might sort of say, hang on a minute, there's that person, because they've gone on to be quite famous. Yeah, okay, Samuel L. Jackson, Liam Neeson, like, they didn't exactly, completely erase it from stars, but again, going back to the casting, it's clever. And I remember back during the prequels about the amount of stars that were rumoured to be in these films. And I think like Leonardo DiCaprio was rumoured to be Anakin for a very long time. And I think George Lucas came out and said, no, we're not going to go for a star. Like, Anakin has to be a complete nobody. And as you said, like, we only got a few random background people, but there wasn't really anyone in this entire film where we were like, hey, they're from that, they're from that, they're from that. Like, well, that was what was good about it.
Because they had the originals, that's what they could market around. Which is good that they didn't
second billing, Mark Hamill.
Yeah, Mark Hamill, second billing, come on. But that kind of saved them from having to, like Disney forcing them to have Johnny Depp in the new Star Wars film.
Which, props to them for at least that. We've got to talk about it. We keep saying we're getting to it. We get the scene on the Star... Is it called the Star Killer, or am I thinking of Luke's Star Killer? Like... It was called something.
This is one where I'd have to rewatch it again.
Which we're still questioning. Did they build this because it's like a planet size on a moon size? Or
we missed it, but from what I can gather, we don't really know still.
This, whatever it is. And, you know, Han and Chewie and Rey and Finn are all on this ship. They're trying to get the shields down so that the rebels can come and basically attack it and do a New Hope and come inside of it.
Whoa.
Mine out of the gutter now. But we get this scene of sort of this big giant bridge thing, and Kylo Ren's walking on it, and you see Han... No rails, and you see Han there, and of course he approaches it out, burn! And I turn around and I'm like, what? This was where I honestly, my heart started to really beat fast.
You knew something was happening.
Because I, at this point, was like, he's going to die here. And
it crossed my mind, but then like, no, they can't. And
sort of this talking fest and blah blah blah, and it was this and that and this and that, and then you looked like he turned good, and then it was like
that's too easy.
Too easy, and he's handing over the lightsaber, and you get that bit of grip, and then, boom, straight through him.
But then the denial kicks in. Well, yeah, he's injured, but they'll get him to the hospital.
That's kind of straight away what I was thinking then. Like, oh, it's only a flesh wound.
Yeah. Then he falls. And shit. And then the denial. He's going to come out at the end, and they're going to get away from the planet. Planet blows up.
And you said that the bit that kind of cheered you up a little bit was Chewie. Mine was Leia.
Yeah, Leia was
with Rey. Leia's theme, the hug. I honestly teared up a bit.
Harry and Daisy.
I don't generally get emotional in films very often. Neither, but very rarely. And that honestly, I felt it. I was like,
that would go up there in some of the classic scenes. And that's the scene where I saw them together, and I'm thinking, they look alike and they've got this shared connection. But yeah, that was brilliant. Leia and Rey there.
And this is the talking point. This is the strange part right now. This is...
Everyone knew in the cinema when that happened, this is the moment.
And you said it to me last night, and you're absolutely right. I commend every single person involved in this film and marketing this film. And, like, you can say that there were rumours. But there were rumours that Luke Skywalker was evil. There were rumours that, Finn was this and Rey was this. And this was... I mean, I've got a list here in front of me of 11 potential hotly debated topics. Number 11 here, they've put here, Han Solo / Luke Skywalker / Princess Leia dies. Probability factor B. And they go into a bit of explanation here. But... we talked about this in James Bond, how a big issue with kind of keeping things away from spoilers, and it was very obvious that, spoiler alert, Christoph Waltz was Blofeld, and it wasn't really as much of a surprise as it could have been. This was a surprise. This was being somebody watching Empire Strikes Back for the very first time, not knowing that he's his father.
This was a total surprise.
This was brilliantly kept. And it is... This, again, going back to cinema history, Han Solo, one of the most beloved characters in cinema history, is dead. He's dead.
They killed him off.
They killed off Han Solo.
But then my question is... Yeah, let that one.
I hope somebody's not like walking down the street right now, where we're recording this, and they didn't know. Sorry,
we left the cinema. And we're walking to the car, and we're like, this happened. Oh wait, there could be something.
We actually walked out of the cinema, past a line, getting ready for a 3 a.m. screening, and said, "Wow, Jar Jar Binks was back! I couldn't believe it."
I don't think anyone fell for it.
No,
but there's so much to tell. Who knows where to start or where to go, but. Is there any chance Han Solo is not dead?
Oh, look,
Like, he escaped at the end and he got off before the planet blew up.
that lightsaber went through some shit in his body. It was on a decent angle. I think it's chopped him up quite.
I don't want Han Solo to be
We're in
dead.
denial. We don't want him to be dead.
But at the same time, I would be kind of upset if they did bring him back.
Yeah.
But I don't want him to be dead, but it was such a great moment that it would be diminished otherwise.
It's kind of... This is a poor comparison because Qui-Gon Jinn is not Han Solo. but no, like, bear with me here for a second. Like, you didn't see Phantom in the cinemas, but, like, I remember when Qui-Gon died, it was like, yeah, I didn't have the emotional connection I do to Han Solo. Poor comparison at that point. But it was still a shock. And it still, to me, was like, he's going to come back. And more believable, I guess, because he'd come back as a Force ghost. Force voice, according to the cartoons. But, yeah, it's computing still that Han Solo's dead. We've waited 30 years for the next part of this part of the Star Wars universe.
Yeah. And it's ripped away from us. And it was dead silent in that scene.
It was pin drop.
I think my mouth was actually open during
I nearly turned around to look at you, but I was just so much just like...
I could not take my eyes. I literally, if I went back, if there's security footage or something, my mouth may have been wide open during that. Because it was just like, we had cheering all through the film. This was dead silent.
The thing is, though, that's like... And I kind of said to you that I felt there would be... Some main character had to die, because... Episode 1, Qui-Gon dies. Episode 4, Obi-Wan dies. Han Solo dies. It makes sense, kind of the first part of each trilogy, a main character has to die.
But then I thought this could be different, because we've waited 30 years. They've brought it back, and it's like reaching into all of our hearts and ripping it out.
Which, like, if you have to kill off Leia, Han, or Luke...
It has to be Han.
It kind of has to be Han, because... You got the Skywalker connection, and it can't be Luke. You can't kill Luke off in the first film unless you're going to bring him back as that ghost. Like, fair enough. But
which might still happen.
But like, do the opposite. Like, Luke is brought back, dies, and Han is revealed right at the end. Like, Leia dying... And this is no disrespect to the character of Leia. I don't know if there's as much as an emotional impact of Leia dying as there is as Han or Luke.
Plus, I'm excited to see what more there is for Leia.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I would be for Han too, but yeah, Han got a lot to do in this film. Like, he was first billing, he was the star of this film. So I feel like Leia would be cut even more short than Han.
And the one thing, actually, too, we talk about being robbed of Han and Luke... Being robbed of more of Han and Rey, that was an interesting little pairing. They were finishing each other's sentences, and he really seemed...
Makes me think it could be her dad.
Well, true. Like, he was very fond of her and asked her for a job, and I mean, I really liked that little connection between those two.
Chewie was getting a bit jealous.
Yes, Cherie is Ray Barker. But yeah, just...
And they couldn't kill Chewie off.
They
couldn't, and they won't.
Chewie's kind of like
I'm calling
your pet dog. You can't.
I'm calling it right now. Chewie doesn't die.
It's like Chewie can't die. C-3PO can't. Well, I mean, he's a robot. He's technically died about 50 times. But
R2, maybe in the last one, but we'll get to the droids soon.
But that's one thing about these sort of films is like, they have to go sometimes for a shock and awe value. Let's kill off everyone you love. Like, but I guess they didn't go cray-cray with this. I mean, yeah, okay, they've killed Han Solo, but like, it's still to the point where it's not like they've just done it purely for shock value. There is something to this.
Well, they're setting up how bad, how evil Kylo...
Which we should really point out, Han Solo was killed by his son.
Yeah, which... Not sure I love the way that's turned out, but... I almost thought Finn could be dead for a minute as well.
Yeah, I was there too.
I'm like, oh, surely they're not going to kill him off because he's the new star. But one thing, I guess, always look on the bright side of life is that we will get to see these new characters. Like, we had a lot of positive things to say about Rey and even Poe and Finn, is we will get to see them take the centre stage now, unless Luke steals the screen time. But with Han, with Han gone, I think it's a chance for them to shine a bit more.
Yeah. And I agree with that. And, like, to give each trilogy a distinct group of characters for you to root for. Like, I mean, even in the prequels, you've still got Obi-Wans and the, C-3POs, and kind of, you still have those connections to the original trilogy. And this one, obviously, with your Hans and your Leias and your Lukes, and, like, you still got them. But you know, like the originals, you brought in Padme, you brought in Windu and all these sort of things, and you need these new characters that you have to root for. Except for Jar Jar.
Hashtag fuck Jar Jar.
Yes.
I didn't want Han to die, and I'm still in denial, still upset, still hasn't processed completely, but I almost feel like this had to happen. If this didn't happen, and you didn't have the Luke bit at the end, the fact of the matter is this film does go down a fair bit.
Yeah.
Like, it had to have the "No, I'm your father" bit. Like, you could say A New Hope doesn't really have that moment, but that was a different case.
Obi-Wan dies, but you're not really as connected to Obi-Wan at that point.
Obi-Wan dies, but at the same time it was the first one. They didn't really know what they were doing. Empire has "No, I'm your father." Return has Leia as your sister, which I still hate to this day, but...
Tell, Luke, is that who you can tell?
Yeah. So they have all these things. It needed something like that, and this was the perfect... And I didn't even think... Again, I didn't watch any promo stuff. I tried to avoid stuff, and I tried to even avoid formulating ideas in my... I just wanted to go in completely... I didn't even consider the fact they're going to kill Han off. Like, you're saying that, you read some theories, and I didn't even think about the notion that might happen at least until the second one. But I guess then the question would be, at the end of the day, was this the right move? They just killed Han frickin' Solo off.
I guess only time will tell, really. I mean, it's, the Leia Luke scene we're going to get in the next one, hopefully, is going to be...
Rival the Rey.
Do we get a Han funeral? Like...
Yeah.
They guess can't find a body. Like, they get a bit of, like, dust or something. Like, but, yeah, if this is a TV series, you'd have to have a funeral for Han, I guess. But, like, I don't know. Like,
I'm excited for the Luke and Leia reunion.
It's still kind of then, like going back to the analysing part of it, if they've sat down and first pre-meeting, Disney, J.J. Abrams, they've all sat down, okay... 3 of these characters, Luke, Leia, and Han. We have to kill one of them off. Who is it? It's Han.
There's no way the other one.
You can't kill Luke or Leia off.
All arrows point to Han.
Han is the one.
Devastating, but I can't believe they did that, though. And Chewie. And just the way... Because it's kind of like... Surely he hasn't turned to the good side that quickly, but maybe another thing that crossed my mind, maybe Han will take the saber and kill his son right there and then, or something. And then it happened, and the whole cinema was quiet. And I'm so glad I got to experience that.
That was eerie. I've never been in a movie like you kind of. I think said to me, I've never been in a cinema where they cheer, and to be really part of a crowd where like. You're in. I mean, we're in a movie theater at 12:30 in the fucking morning. We're here to see a movie because we love this.
At that point, freaking like 2:30.
Well, exactly. We're here to see it because we're dedicated to this series. We fucking love it. You're riding the bumps and the emotions, and everybody in that theater is experiencing exactly the same thing as you are. Yeah. And to witness that bit and just everybody like,
I was very glad I got, because I have seen some of the prequels at the cinema, but. They didn't really have too many, like, Jar Jar. Like, what only I can imagine what No, I'm Your Father was like. Like, I think maybe that's a whole other thing, but I think this is the closest thing we will ever experience in the cinema thing. Like,
I would almost argue it's bigger, based purely on the fact that Star Wars is so big now, whereas in, 1980, 1981, whenever Empire was released, like... Yeah, Star Wars was a big deal, but it didn't have the following and the mega capacity it does today compared to what it did then. And again, that's not to take away from that moment, because that moment is just massive in Star Wars and cinema history. But just based purely on the universe that Star Wars creates, like... Yeah, if you look at a list of the biggest, most successful franchises in cinema history, Star Wars is no longer number one, but there are many reasons behind that. I would argue Star Wars is the most beloved franchise in the history of cinema. Yeah. There's nothing that can touch it. Pop culture, everything. Again, whether you love it or hate it, you know it.
Yeah. And this film will be the biggest film ever made.
Yeah, absolutely. This will break box office records. If fucking Fast and Furious 7 can make... how much that did, and I think it's like the 5th or 6th most successful movie in the history of movies. Yeah. If this does not beat that, I'm out.
Everyone's seeing Star Wars. Even
Oh, of
people who
course.
haven't seen the other ones are seeing Star Wars.
Of course. I mean, you look at Jurassic World. People knew it was going to be a big film. No one predicted it would be the third biggest movie of all time. I don't think people realised how much that was going to bring back the nostalgia. And that's only Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
This is Star Wars.
Yeah.
So
The whole galaxy.
yeah, this is a whole different kettle of fish.
That was the moment of the film.
I don't know if you want to add anything else. One thing though, that if we're kind of wrapping this up, we did this in the car last night. You got right now, rank it like 7 Star Wars films.
Yeah.
Where are you putting this right now?
Well,
Maybe, and even if you want to give me your order, I mean, maybe some listeners would like to know your order.
Yeah, we've never really done a non-survivor James Bond, so we can talk general Star Wars too, but maybe just we can formulate on that and think about it, because there's one thing that we didn't really cover. The main thing is the 3 droids, just quickly.
Oh, good point, yes, sorry.
Well, there's 2 obvious ones. There's C-3PO or C-3P, Red Army, which, again, I'm a big Star Wars fan, but there are so many Star Wars fans out here who know everything, and maybe that's something in the galaxy that's an honour to have a Red Armor. I don't know. My fandom doesn't go that long. Or maybe...
It's setting something else up.
Yeah, or maybe it's just they needed him to look different again. And then R2 Emo, R2 Emo.
And they're the only characters now to appear in L7?
Yep.
Yeah, there wouldn't be anyone else.
Well, Obi-Wan was in all 6.
Yoda was in all but
5 of
1.
them, so, and they will be. They have to be in every film. That has to be a thing that R2 and C2 are in every Star Wars film, even the spin-offs. But well, that's another quick thing. Han Solo died. Does that get diminished in any way that they're doing a Han Solo prequel? I think it does. But this should be the end of the character. This sucks. He just died. In real life, people die, and it's... No!
But you've got to bring the... I'm indifferent on this idea anyway, because
Yeah,
who the fuck is Han Solo?
Yeah. Don't say Chris Pratt.
No, but like... This is where I'm iffy about it, because... I don't want Disney to turn Star Wars into the Marvels where you've got to have 1,300 movies every 6 months. Like, I'm a Star Wars fan, I would love it, but...
Before the film started, when we were waiting for it, I said, is it going to... What makes Star Wars special is we've had 6 films in 30 years. Does it take it away that we're going to have one every year? But that's probably another discussion for another time.
But I mean, just quickly on that, like, you don't need to have James Bond spin-offs, like, to fill the gaps. Like...
what makes Bond special is we wait 4 years, we wait 3
and he's
years.
a film. And, like, yeah, I get what they're doing with the Marvel Universe, but sometimes it's a bit too much.
Well, yeah, and it's not special anymore because of the overkill. And even, we're talking James Bond, even the Pierce Brosnan 90s films where they had them every 2 years, those ones, Tomorrow Never Dies, World's Not Enough, they kind of blend in the middle and they don't feel special.
And Die Another Day and Tomorrow Never Dies both had rumours of spin-offs anyway, and they never did them. So
thank God.
But yeah, sort of back to the droids and with the Han Solo one. Look, I can't even fathom that. The only time I mean, God, I don't. Who is young Han Solo? No, I don't want to even think about that. You hadn't finished talking about C-3PO and R2-D2. I think I interrupted you.
Oh yeah.
And Bebop, Bop Bop.
Bebop, Bop Bop. Well, talking about Bebop, well, it wasn't really Bebop, but we had some reggae.
Yes, we didn't have Return of the Jedi special edition.
But yeah, that was the new Cantina bar, which
didn't have throwback aliens in this film, did we?
The aliens were underwhelming.
And we didn't have random devil guy from Cantina Band or
my favourite. He doesn't like you.
Bolchidian.
Bald chin and big nose. I don't like you. Which we so wanted to do to someone in the line, but I was too scared.
He doesn't like you. I don't like you either.
I wanted to tap someone on the shoulder and point to Ben and say, he doesn't like you. But
yes, I do.
If this was their first ever Star Wars film they were watching, they might bash us up or something.
No one has a Star Wars film with bashing us up,
no one there was bashing
Come on. Bitch slappers.
Yeah, although not that I could say much better because I couldn't fight back. But
I'm telling you now, I can't fight back against anyone, but I'd fancy my chances in a Star Wars screening.
Some of those people, yeah. Not the stormtroopers. But
there was a blind man in our screening. Can I just point that
He
out?
would beat the shit out.
I'm not even joking. There was a man with like
That's
sunglasses
how
on and
dedicated Star
a
Wars
stick.
fans are.
Yeah.
That a blind man, we don't know, maybe he's half blind, but
Well,
that's how
maybe he's
dedicated
not.
these fans are.
And he did it to get good seats.
Way to think well on humanity, Ben. Yeah, the droids. There's not a lot to add. C-3PO stole the show every scene he was in. He's one of my favourite characters. He's so good. The red arm, again, maybe that will be explained more in depth. I apologise that I don't really know too much about that, or if we're supposed to not know. He was great. I hope they use him a bit more in the next one, but he was still in a fair bit of it though. I like that they delayed it, so when it's like, it's C-3PO, when they finally showed him, it's like, yes!
And his head just pops in between him and like,
that was fun.
and the little look of like just them looking at each other like, come on C-3PO, and he's like, oh sorry.
Yeah, that was really
And
funny.
he actually looked like he had importance. Like he
Yeah.
wasn't just bumbling fool in the
that's
back.
the thing, he helps defeat the Empire, so he's an important droid.
And that's one thing I really liked about C-3PO is that, I mean, I've always loved C-3PO as a character. I'm not going to shit on C-3PO.
Yeah.
But, yeah, like, the fact of the matter in this film is that he looks like he actually has a role in that organisation.
In the Resistance, he plays an important part of that. So he was great. I hope we get more of him. They have to be in every film. That should be a requirement. I was scared we wouldn't get R2 because it's always C-3PO and R2 together, and I'm like, oh, is R2 not ever going to be in this? He's with Luke or something. I'm just going to say I didn't like what they did with R2. That he's emo because Luke left.
He didn't do that with Anakin.
Yeah. It was just kind of like, yeah, that's touching that this droid is kind of broken down, but I have to imagine that surely Luke told him to not give away his position or something. And then it was really iffy with like, oh, don't talk to him, BB-8. He's not hoarding a map. And it's like, so the map
He fucking was.
The map was there all along.
Thanks, R2.
They've had
little
the map,
bitch.
and R2 has been too much of an emo bitch to not give up the map, so that they've been all the Resistance fighters dying just trying to get this map, and that was it.
Why are the Resistance trying to find Luke?
Well, I guess they wanted him. Well, because of the First Order, I guess, but he disappeared for a reason.
To protect him from the First Order, I guess, but...
Well, I guess the other thing is, maybe they don't know that he left completely like that. Some might think that he was kidnapped or something.
And do the First Order only want Luke just to kill him, or do they want him to teach the rest to...
Yeah, join them.
Okay, sorry, we're just...
as nephew and...
We're getting back to the plot.
Yeah. Well, then the other thing is, who was that guy with the map?
Yeah. The random old guy.
Yeah, at the very start. And then BB-8's map was literally like connected it straight into R2's map, like this
And
tiny...
it didn't add anything to it. When Ray's reading it, like, oh, we need the rest of it. You didn't. Like, you read, that was the only bit you read when you looked at the freaking R2 map.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't read Star Map, but yeah, I didn't like what they did with R2, but I'm excited to see what they do. And that obviously BB-8's maybe a bit out of it now because R2's gone with Ray and Chewie at the end. Oh, what was
Well,
their
BB-8
ship?
has no purpose now.
Yeah, because he was the R2 of the film, and now we've got R2 back joining Luke. So great to see them. But yeah, so that's those two. I didn't like what they did with emo R2, but great to see him back though.
Did you like BB-8?
BB-8.
BB.
Bit the burden. No one
Still
will get
thinks
that
I'm a
reference.
virgin.
I didn't like the character since the trailer or the promotion, and I felt like it was the new Ewoks, that BB-8 was designed to be sold to kids. And we even seen that, like, they've made real life BB-8s you can buy and stuff like that. She was decent, but I don't think you can replace R2. Like, yeah, they tried, but I'm not sure I like the soccer ball design. And, like, apparently Rey speaks droid, but whatever. She's the only woman in the galaxy who can
Did
speak
Finn?
droid. Don't. No, because remember there was that scene where he... Oh,
But when he was like trying to say like,
Yeah.
oh, where's the resistance base? Yeah, that's where it is. Like, it was like, it was part of it. Like he didn't understand, but then, was he just reading the facial expressions of this droid? Is that kind of what it
maybe
came down
people
to?
speak droid in
Maybe.
30 years later. But, yeah, I'm indifferent. I'm not going to say I hated it, because I didn't hate it, but I almost felt like, yeah, they probably did the right thing setting up C3 and R2, like, saving them for Luke a bit more. But, yeah, it was just... I like that it's Poe's personal droid and he got that back. That's kind of cool, but the soccer ball thing, it just seemed a bit gimmicky, and, yeah. So, I didn't hate it, and it was fun, and I'm happy to see it back in the next film, but I hope it doesn't have as much as a big of a role.
I think you're right in saying that it's there to and I'm not one to be one of these fans who are all like, oh, Ewoks were just for the toys, and Jar Jar was just for the toys. Like,
Wow.
Like George Lucas has always said he made these movies essentially for kids. So, and this is made by fucking Disney. I mean, like, you know, they're allowed to have merchandising opportunities. I have no problems with that whatsoever, but this clearly was the case for that. And realistically now, it has no purpose in the rest of the film, except it's Poe's little personal lackey. The design, yeah, was okay. I mean, it was cute. Like, it had little emotions, and you had to feel sorry for it. And
it was pretty cute.
It was, you know, yeah, it was there, and yeah, I guess it was just there. I didn't like the whole, like, oh, stop random alien thing on horse thing from stealing random droid in the desert. And then she's so desperate for food that she can't accept 60 rations from alien dude who really wants the droid. I mean, there was no payoff on that at all. Like, that was all set up just to show her the strong, tough woman that she is. And,
yeah, that was the entire existence of that scene. And also people trying to get Han.
Yeah.
Like, there was a funny guy. What did that like, he wasn't Mexican, he was like alien, but he said twice or something.
Oh, the Asian dudes.
Yeah, that was kind of funny when he said that.
And then Han's like, what was the second time? And she was like,
yeah, that was funny.
Yeah, that was good.
That was humour done good.
That was yeah.
That didn't really have too much of a payoff other than have an eating alien.
Yeah, that was just establishment scenes of Han and coming along. And was Han flying that giant ship by himself on the chance hope of finding the Millennium Falcon? Anyway, we're not here to do all that.
BB-8 was okay.
Yeah, C-3PO, yeah, I think I've already touched on that. Great. And, yeah, email R2-D2. Good on him.
But I'm excited for R2 next film, now that he's back to form.
Where's the silver one from Phantom? I miss the silver one from Phantom.
Chopping her up in the...
I'm TC3 at your service, sir.
Chopping her up in the Lego Star Wars that we were playing.
Yeah. Rankings. I want you to rank them.
Yeah, this is hard. I've been trying to think of it while we talked about the droids. So we're ranking them, all of the films.
Go from bottom to top. Let's go one after each other.
At the bottom, I would have Ewoks Caravan of Courage, followed by Ewoks Battle for Endor. Then the Clone Wars cartoon. No. I would say... Alright, bottom to top. Keep in mind, this is just off the top of my head. I have not, like, written... Like, for these rankings, I normally take lists way too seriously. I haven't thought about it. So, just keep in mind, don't tweet me and, what? You had this? And also keep in mind that we've had 5 hours sleep, and this is 24 hours now after we watch the film, 23 hours. So, you can't judge a film like this, of this magnitude, 23 hours later. And we need to rewatch it. So, keep that all in mind. I'm going to say, of course, we kind of defended them a bit more, and I've had a new appreciation for the prequel.
I really have too.
Which is weird, only because I saw some of the things done wrong in this one, and I'm thinking, well, the prequels, some of that stuff sucked balls. That's some of the awful things in cinema ever. But they felt like Star Wars films, and that's my new appreciation. But don't get me wrong, I'm not like a hipster who's like, oh, I love the prequels, it's better than the originals or anything. I should stop talking. Number 7. I almost said 6. We've got 7 Star Wars.
We do, 7.
Number 7.
There's another pod racer.
Yeah, pod racer.
Might be poignant about what you're about to say, no, I don't know.
Well, You've used your Jedi future prediction skills, and yes, The Phantom Menace, number 7.
I want to say with the prequels is that, yeah, I'm with you, and I feel that the strange thing with the prequels, though, is that as much as you can shit on them and say this and that and about them, I still can watch them all the time.
Yeah,
I enjoy them.
Once a year.
And I guess the thing with that, like, it might be more so for me because you're a little bit younger than I am, but these were my Star Wars films. Like, for my parents and my dad and that, like, the original trilogy, I watched them on VHS in the mid-90s and saw one of the special editions in cinema. But I was the perfect target age for George Lucas. I was 12 years old when Phantom Menace came out. I saw it twice. You know, Attack of the Clones, saw it twice. Revenge of the Sith, saw it twice. Like, that was my trilogy. Yeah. And whether or not they're great films or not, they will always be the closest personal connection to me personally, because I got to experience them as released films. Not that I'm saying this, but as that age, when you're in that mindset.
I've got that same history of it, like Attack of the Clones, VHS, stuff like that, where there is that nostalgia factor.
You're buying the toys and things like that. Like, that's what you're...
I think nostalgia factor... This is a whole other argument, but something I hate, that I think nostalgia factor should count for... When you talk about films, you talk about because you like them personally. So, like, people try and say, oh, you only like it for nostalgia. Well, yeah.
But this is the thing, too. Like, people like films for different reasons and different eras and different things like that. And, again, going back to what I was saying before, it's not going to happen because people just want to forget the prequels. Yeah. But I would like there to be connections to the prequels. I don't want them to be completely forgotten.
Yeah,
except for Jar Jar. And speaking of Jar Jar, number 7, I'm the same, Phantom Menace. I mean, again, I can watch it and enjoy it, and I honestly it might be the film, maybe in my top 3 in terms of what I've seen the most out of the Star Wars, because I used to watch that so much when I got that on video as well for the first time, and it's probably...
I had it on video.
I'd almost say the film I know the most, like, just based on how many times I've seen it, but...
I'm not going to go that far.
But yes, Phantom, number 7.
Yeah, obvious reasons. But there's generally things I like about that film. But,
no. Do you want me to go? And sort of, number 6. I think you and I are going to have the same 7 and 6. It was an improvement on the first, and I enjoyed it a bit more than the Phantom. But the love dialogue, I mean, I love Natalie Portman. Can I just point that out? But Attack of the Clones. Got to be number 6. Yes, still get slightly more enjoyable than Phantom, but it has a lot of issues.
Yeah, it does have a lot of issues. In some ways, more issues than the Phantom Menace. But I feel like there are two people. There are the people who like it better than Phantom Menace, and there are people who like it less. And no one has a 5th. Yeah,
I think any Star Wars fans always it's the same bottom 2.
Yeah. It's just the order switches between...
And I'm not as down on Hayden Christensen as a lot of people are, but he's still not good.
That's a discussion for another time.
This is where it gets interesting.
Well, I haven't had my second one.
What?
I haven't said my second.
Didn't you say Attack of the Clones?
Well, I didn't say it, but it's true. It's Attack of the Clones. So, yeah, my next one is Attack of the Clones. But I will say that that's the one I have the most personal connection to, because that's the one I had VHS. Besides the prequels, I'm talking prequels. I have better connection probably to the originals just because I watched them more. But that's, of all the 3 prequels, I have more connection to Attack of the Clones than any of the other ones.
Because you didn't see Phantom in the cinemas?
No.
Yeah. I saw Phantom 3 times technically because I saw the 3D re-release. So
yeah, and I had Attack on video before Phantom, so I watched that religiously just because it was Star Wars. So is it my go?
Yeah, number 5.
Damn, I wish it was your go.
This is the hard bit. This is
the hardest bit that there will ever be. And of course this list means nothing, I need to rewatch the new one. I can't do a tie, can I?
TIE Fighter?
I'm going to say... And then I'll let you do yours, and then I've got some discussion. But I'm actually going to say number 5, Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. And that blows my mind, and I feel like that shouldn't be.
I'm going to say the same.
That's crazy.
Yeah, you discuss first.
I enjoyed this film, and I think this podcast made me enjoy it more. Like, I came out not disappointed. I was not disappointed, don't get me wrong, but I was underwhelmed. And I think this has almost helped me. I'm kind of appreciating it a bit more, having this discussion, because it was a good film, and surprisingly, we did have a lot of positive things to say about it. But it's not the film that I wanted. And that film...
It's not the film.
JJ, you will make a different film. That sounds really selfish, but I'm a big fan of you talk about the films because you like them. I have this film here because I like it here. Like, you don't tell me what my favourite season of a show is. I tell you, and I tell you the reasons why I like it. So it sounds selfish, because it is selfish. It's not the film that I wanted. And I don't like being so negative, because then people think you don't like it. I liked this film. It was freaking Star Wars. I can't wait to see it. I might see it 3 times. Probably not 4 times, because I'm poor. But
And you haven't seen Spectre for a second time yet?
I need to do some scavenging of droids before I can see it a 4th time. But I will see it again, hands down, and I will enjoy the hell out of it. It was Star Wars. Even the worst Star Wars film... Well, no. I'm not going to go there. But even weaker Star Wars is better than a lot of other films. I was just a bit underwhelmed because this is years and years of my childhood dreaming of what happened next. And what happened next was A New Hope.
Yep.
And again, there's such a generalisation, because you could talk about this for 2 hours, but I want to make it clear that this and the next one is so close. It's not like this is for Attack of the Clones, Phantom Menace are further away. This and the next one are literally, as I said, I asked if I could do a tie.
Yeah. I would agree. Yeah, I agree with everything you said. And if we were doing this on points grading, this would only be 1 point behind what I'm going to put in 4th. Yeah. And everything you said, I agree with. And if I see this in a week again for the second time, I might change this ranking.
It probably will change. It will probably either go up or lower, but probably up.
And people are probably just laughing the shit out of this right now and saying, "Oh my god, never do a Star Wars podcast, boys! You put one of the prequels ahead of The Force Awakens."
This pilot will not get picked up into a full podcast.
Yes, backdoor pilot. But yeah,
no pun intended.
There's nothing really there to add to what you said, because I agree with everything you say. I mean, in 4th, nothing to drag out here. Revenge of the Sith,
yeah, obviously.
And yeah, we're not that dumb that we're going to put like Revenge of the Sith in like 2nd or 1st. But like the thing with Revenge of the Sith is, yeah, it has its problems. Trust me, but
it has a lot of problems.
The way I look at Revenge of the Sith, it's got an amazing opening, and it's got, to me, if you were to rank sequences in Star Wars, the last half hour of Revenge of the Sith, I would put in my top 5 favourite sequences in any Star Wars film.
That's the one thing that would just tick it over.
It's incredible.
This film didn't really have that stretch of, this is happening, this is happening.
There was no awe-inspiring moments. And
maybe they weren't going for that.
And this is the thing with Revenge of the Sith, going back to when seeing it at the cinemas, going into it knowing what's going to happen. It was the fact of build up. And I still remember being in that cinema and just watching every second of that last half hour, my jaw wide open, just like absolutely loving it. And this is how much I love the sequences. And that scene where you see Darth Vader walking on the bridge of the Star Destroyer, and you see those people on their computers, and he looks out in space. That is just such a great scene, and one of my favourite scenes.
Star Wars as well.
Yeah, exactly. And it goes back to the feeling of Star Wars. And, like,
that's maybe the one thing, now that I think about it, that maybe puts it just ahead is, I keep saying that Force Awakens, great film, as I kept saying. 3.5 stars, 4 stars. It was great. Out of 5. Not out of like 50 or something. But there was just something that didn't feel like much of a Star Wars film compared to the other 6, and that could have been a purposeful decision.
Yeah, and if you look at what we've talked about as the best bits and Hall of Fame moments, and you added them up in total screen time, Han Solo's death, the reveal of Luke Skywalker, Han Solo's first bit, hello Rey, Finn, all these bits but you compare that to, as I said, like Sith, you've got that last half hour, the opening bit's great. There are bits throughout the middle bits that are great as well, and there are terrible bits in it as well, don't get me wrong, but I think Sith is just, it's a good film.
The way I would say is, Revenge of the Sith had way more bad moments than The Force Awakens.
Yep.
But it also had more better moments.
Yep.
Like, The Force Awakens, I think about it, there's overall general themes that I was not a fan of, that there are no Jedi and stuff like that. But the actual film itself, like J.J. Abrams is a good director. The film itself, there's no like cringeworthy moments. There's no, oh, they did that kind of thing, which Revenge of the Sith does have a lot of.
Yeah.
And it's funny that I did say a bit ahead and put it in fourth because I'm probably less of a fan of it than most Star Wars fans. I find a lot of issues with Revenge of the Sith.
And the funny thing is that I said to you, and I don't know if this is laughable, is I said, like, the acting in Force Awakens sometimes was almost too good. Like, Star Wars is kind of a film series where, like, not, I hate sand, but, like, good, our first catch of the day. Like, you know, there is very bad, but then it's kind of like you don't want it to be too good. Like, if that makes sense, and that's probably a really weird criticism.
Yeah, we're really trying to find things now. No,
I think ours is going to change a little bit now for the top three.
Yeah, I'll just finish by saying that I don't think Revenge of the Sith is perfect. I don't love it either, but they do a lot good. And Hayden Christensen is much better here.
Yeah.
And they killed younglings. But again, ask me this tomorrow, Force Awakens is above it. Ask me that the next way, Revenge of the Sith. They're that close.
Yeah.
Like, there are minuscule things that top it. So there was Phantom, Attack of the Clones, and then there was a big gap. Then there was Force Awakens and Revenge of the Sith. Now there is a big gap. Like, that's kind of the progression of the quality of the films. I'm going to say I've not thought of this, so it's coming directly off my head right now. I'm just going to say number 3, Return of the Jedi. And I know there are some Star Wars fans who think it's way below the other two originals. I don't. It's this close. Like, I view this almost as one progressive film from the beginning of New Hope to the end of Return of the Jedi. It's such a fantastic film. It's easily one of my favourite films. It's number 3, but not by much. Ewoks, I don't mind them as much as most people. I love Revenge of the Sith so much.
Return of a Jedi.
Oh, Return of the Jedi, sorry.
A Jedi.
Return of a Jedi. Yeah, that's our renaming, or our George Lucas remaster is Return of a Jedi. It's fantastic. I don't dislike it. I just think it's a tiny bit worse. I know there are some people, hello Colin, who think it's way worse than the other two. I don't. But it's not quite as good. But I love it so much.
So yeah, we're definitely having different ones here, because my number 3, I think, is your number 1, A New Hope. I get big gap between A New Hope and Revenge of the Sith. And I love A New Hope, and similar to what you said about Return of the Jedi, probably one of my favourite films, and I'm not here to shit about it, but out of all the original trilogies, it's the one that doesn't bring me as much as excitement as the other ones. So, again, love this film, and it's not a bad film. It's a great film, and it gets better every time I watch it, but it's, yeah, compared to the other two, it's the one that I would like the least. That made sense. So then do I go now with my number 2?
Yep.
Empire.
Essentially your number 1 too, but we'll get to that.
Oh, okay. Well, Empire Strikes Back is number 2. Like, I know this is generally people's greatest of all time, and it's a brilliant film. And again, one of my favourites of all time. But there's, like, am I going to get shot by Star Wars fans by saying, like, some of the Yoda stuff bores me sometimes? Like,
sacrilege.
Like, I'm not saying I don't like it, but it's just, you know, just some of it. But everything else, like, the Hoth stuff is amazing.
Yeah.
Cloud City stuff's amazing. The Duel. Oh, yes.
Lightsaber battle in the entire series, in my opinion.
I love the asteroid scene. I love that music in the asteroid chase is probably up there with Duel of the Fates, or the final battle in Sith is my favourite music in all of Star Wars. Lando. Yeah, so much. Luke, I'm your father. I mean,
I love you, I know.
Yep.
Getting carbonite.
Han and Chewie.
Boba Fett.
Han and C-3PO chemistry. The little fat battles they have.
Chewie carrying
C-3PO.
Leia kicking ass.
Leia and Han falling in love, and yeah, I mean, great film. And my number 1's obvious, but I guess I'll talk about that separately.
Yeah, number 2, Empire Strikes Back. Don't get me wrong, it's not like, oh, everyone loves this one, and so this is one I don't have here. Like, it could easily be my number 1 if you ask me tomorrow. It's a near flawless film. It could be in my top 10 films, top 20 maybe. It's amazing. I've watched this so many times, and I've just explained all the stuff I love about it, and of course there's more, but yeah, it's number 2, but don't get me wrong about it. It could be number 1. It's a fantastic film. There's a reason why people say this is the best one.
Only original trilogy movie I've ever seen in the cinemas too.
Yeah, and that would be such a great experience, even after all these years.
Special edition 97, 98, whenever it was I got
And
to see.
shout out to our good friend Irvin Kershner.
Yes. Don't direct any movies after The Empire Strikes Back. Oh, wait.
Never say never.
Oh, no.
So yeah, that's great. Which means number 1 is A New Hope, and that's not me being a hipster. Oh, the original called Star Wars is the best. Like, no. It's just, I've had so many memories with this, and I almost like I love full-blown Jedi Luke in the end of the films, but I almost like the naivety of it and the innocence of...
Brady little Luke.
Yeah, of him, and him using a phaser or a gun, and we don't know much about anything at this point other than Darth Vader, and they've got the original Death Star, not the second or the third or the fourth, and we get to meet Han and Chewie and Ben Kenobi and the good Ben, and it's just, this is probably the one film where, well, I can with all the other 2 originals, but this is the one I could tell you from start to finish exactly every scene that comes after. I know this film so much, and it's probably the one I've seen the most. I love it. I love Luke and the 2 sons. It's amazing. The cantina scene.
Play the same song again.
He doesn't like you. We're wanted men on 12 systems. Pig nose and ball chin. It's just, and the duel between Ben and Vader is, yeah, it's not the best, but there's a reason for that. So, yeah, not by much. All 3 of these are so close. Again, like you said, 1 point difference. But A New Hope maybe just trumps it. Ask me tomorrow, it could be Empire. I love them all.
Well, I think I get shit down in my opinion. I'm used to it anyway. I'd host Hello 007. But, yeah, Return of the Jedi has always been my favourite, and I think always will be, to be honest. I mean, there's just something about it, like, and I like the Ewoks, whatever, Star Wars fans, flame me down for it. Just Jedi Luke.
Yeah.
It's got to be top 3 favourite characters in a film, just based purely on how he is in that. Like, love him so much, and the battle at the end, the music, that ooh, like, it's just, oh, it's so good, and the whole Jabba stuff at the beginning, and just like the funness of like Han and Leia with the Ewoks, and Leia with the Ewoks always. I just love their little interaction. C-3PO was a god. Like, it's just great.
One of my old
Lando and
Star Wars scenes is Luke gets the green saber, jumps up, and surrender Jabba or die.
I love the whole bit when they're on the sticks and they're about to be burnt, and Han's trying to blow the fire out, and then he's like, 3PO, tell them I'll use my magic, and he starts lifting up, and you know, and one of the, like, it always like gets me a little bit sad is the bit with the Ewoks, and they've got that sad music, and then you got that bit of the Ewok going to the other Ewok, like going, like crying over the other Ewok, like, oh.
Ben cares for Ewok.
And like, yeah, in the special editions, the yeah, that's a bit overkill. I'm not as down on it as Noah. It's a bit silly, but I absolutely love, and again, this is why we don't do Star Wars podcasts, because we deal with Survivor fans. I couldn't imagine what it's like dealing with Star Wars fans. I love the edition on the special edition where they cut to all the planets.
I love that too.
It's, and like,
no shame.
I miss Jub Jub. Of course, everyone misses Jub Jub, but that music at the end, that kind of really like emotional music, and you know, is that destroyed now by The Force Awakens? No, not yet. Ask me at the end of the trilogy, but
yeah,
like,
possibly
just the cutaways to all this, and again tying it back to the prequels, and yeah, we've got a Gungan in there, but it's not Jar Jar. Like, sure, there's one decent Gungan, and that was the one on the roof, and like
Barry the decent Gungan.
And like, I'm not as down on Ghost Hayden Christensen as everybody else is. But
I'm with you with the Naboo and all that. I'm not with you with the Hayden.
I just love Return of the Jedi. It's in my top 10 favourite films of all time. Might be in my top 5 favourite films of all time.
Yeah. I hope that doesn't diminish the original trilogy. The fact that how this could turn out. Because I said that to you last night. Oh, does this ruin the end of Jedi? And it hasn't. You're right. No. But I hope that this isn't going to ruin the original trilogy for us.
Yeah. We'll have to wait and see.
It won't.
We can't blame JJ now because we're on to another director, aren't we?
Yeah. I have faith in this series. Like, I was pretty negative in this, but I have a lot of faith, and I didn't dislike the film.
As long as it's not like the Craig Bonds that now episode 8 is like Quantum of Solace and we're going to have like giant writing on the screen and
Don't change it up, and you should be right. So just to quickly recap, what was it? 7, Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, The Force Awakens, Revenge of the Sith, Return of a Jedi, The Empire Strikes Back, and A New Hope. Don't take that to heart.
Our rankings are exactly the same, except your 1 is my 3 and your 3 is my 1.
Yeah.
So,
But again, that original 3 could switch all over the place.
it's amazing, like how different our James Bond ones are, and we're basically
Well, there are only 7 of these ones.
basically exactly. Well, we'll go back and look at where our 7 James Bond films were after the first 7. This has been fun. This is how long have we been going here for? No, I didn't even know.
We're clocking in at 2 hours and 18 minutes.
Well, there you go. The batteries have lasted well then. This special edition of Survivor Oz. We've George Lucas it up.
George Lucas Survivor Oz.
We've added all these extra bits
Something
in.
new, something different.
Spoiler alert if you haven't watched Survivor yet. That's no, I won't spoil it. I won't tell you Jeremy one. But
Yeah, this has been a unique episode.
it has. It's
I
been
hope
fun.
people don't think we're too negative on it. I was underwhelmed, and I have a lot of issues with this film, but I didn't dislike it. It's Star Wars.
Exactly, and just the bit that it's always going to live with you too, like the experience of watching cinema and the build-up. Like we were counting down and getting to see there at midnight and all this sort of stuff. It's kind of feel
I've never had a screening like that. That was fun.
I feel a bit down now, really, and it's even episode 8 won't be as big deal as this because
that will be the biggest that we have.
Exactly. So
Not even Rogue One. Or...
bit sad. Whatever. We've moved on. We'll go see it more at the cinemas. Hands dead.
We've got another Star Wars film next year, Rogue One.
We do, and then another
see
one
you on this table next year.
But yeah, and if people are kind of thinking like, oh, this is fun, like backdoor pilot to do a Star Wars podcast, it's been discussed. But no, sadly...
Will it happen? Probably not.
Sadly, we don't have the willpower to be able to do it permanently.
Again,
but never say... We said that about James Bond initially when we discussed that, I guess, so...
Yeah. But
Never
let us
say
know
never
what you
again.
thought, though, of this random... Maybe we could do random discussion.
We are playing this clip right now as a flashback on our very first episode of Star Wars Oz.
Yeah. Hello, episode 20 of Star Wars Oz. But, yeah... let us know what you thought of the episode, because we'd love to hear feedback of this unique Survivor Oz episode.
Indeed, and...
Or if you're a Double Oz 7 fan.
Yeah, listen to 007 via the website. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. This has been fun. To Colin and Cable, sorry that we couldn't wait another...
This was impromptu.
It was very impromptu.
We were not planning on doing this.
We, honestly, this was only discovered that we'll do this in a couple of hours, so yes. Stay tuned to Survivor Oz 007 and may the force be with you.
Yeah, something around that line. Good night. Goodbye. Thank you.
He doesn't like you.
Sorry.
I don't like you either. You just watch yourself. We're wanted men. I have the death sentence on 12 systems.
I'll be careful.
You'll be dead.